Chapter 5066. Zichen turned his head and saw a disappearing figure. This made his expression change drastically. Could it be that an inexplicable existence had really walked out of the killing crystal? He chased after it, wanting to see what it was. After going out, it disappeared. It seemed like an illusion. Zichen felt a little scared. If the existence inside really came out, it would be troublesome. Would it be dangerous for him to wander around here? Next, Zichen was much more careful and didn't dare to dig casually. If it were any other time, he would turn around and run away. However, he was going to Pofa City this time. Thinking about the people he dealt with before, he might be plotted against. There might be some danger, so Zichen had to become stronger. He had already broken through his realm. It was too difficult to go further. He could only put his hope on the slaughter spirit. Next, he only dared to touch the exposed killing crystals and didn't dare to dig inside casually. Even so, he saw some strange things. Once he found something unusual, he immediately retreated and chose the next mine. Zichen appeared to be very careful as he walked through the tunnels. Finally, after staying here for a few days, Zichen couldn't take it anymore and left. It was too dangerous here. Through the killing crystals, he saw at least 3 people. Complete people. They might be resurrected. When he returned to the camp, Hu Zheng and Miao Pengfei had broken through to the 3-strength realm. They hadn't been officially appointed, but the two had already begun to deal with some things and were ready to take over at any time. A few days later, Zichen communicated with the person who went out to deliver resources and left. Next, this place was jointly managed by Miao Pengfei and Hu Zheng. With 2 3-strength realm cultivators in charge, there naturally wouldn't be any trouble. Zichen used the token and entered Pofa City. Marcus received the news early in the morning and waited at the door. After Zichen arrived, he took Zichen to find Ape Bert. Ape Bert, who was in the 6-strength realm, was the leader of a force in Pofa City. He controlled some mineral veins under his control. The camp where Zichen was before was now under Ape Bert's charge. This time, there shouldn't be any big problems. On the way to Arbert's mansion, Marcus appeared very excited. In fact, he was quite moved by Zichen's growth. When they first met, Zichen was only in the 3rd force realm. But in such a short time, he had actually grown to the 5th force realm, the same realm as him. Moreover, it was said that he had already fought with a 6 forces state cultivator. He was truly powerful. Along the way, they would meet other people. When these people saw Zichen, their eyes were very unfriendly. The news that Zichen had a special weapon had spread throughout Shattering Law City, which made Zichen somewhat famous, even though he had not yet arrived in Shattering Law City. As for what happened after that, everyone knew. After the Spellbreakers suffered a huge loss at the hands of Zichen, the Spirit Casters also suffered a huge loss. They had already offended both Fa Po and Ling Fa. Now that Zichen had entered the city, they naturally didn't have a good expression. These people wouldn't dare to make a move in the city. Unlike those Spellbreakers, Spirit Casters still know the rules. As they walked forward, Marcus explained, however, once they leave the city, they will be free. Life and death are up to fate. Marcus pointed into the distance. The outside of the city I'm talking about is not the place you came from, but outside of this city. Zichen knew this. At this moment, when he looked up, he could see mountain peaks outside the city. There are also Spellbreakers. You have to be careful. They suffered a huge loss last time. They won't let it go so easily. Along the way, Marcus said a lot of things. Most of them were small things that Zichen needed to pay attention to. At our realm, the effect of ordinary energy becomes very poor. We need to exchange it for even purer energy. Marcus took out a brilliant energy. This one, 100 strands of ordinary energy can be exchanged for 1 strand. We call it pure energy. Zichen had seen this kind of energy before. After killing a 5-strengths realm martial artist, he obtained it from the ring. It was much purer than ordinary energy. However, he had tried to refine it before but to no avail. After hearing Marcus's explanation, Zichen knew that only when one reached the 5-strengths realm could one truly refine it. There's this one. Following that, Marcus took out another energy beam. Following the appearance of this energy beam, Zichen seemed to see countless rules appearing in his vision. What is this? Zichen asked in surprise. Just as Marcus took out this energy beam, the 5 strands of energy around him also showed an abnormality. Elementary star magical energy, Marcus explained, it requires 3,000 strands of ordinary energy to exchange for it. If a 5-strengths realm martial artist uses it to cultivate, their cultivation speed will be much faster. Where do I exchange for it? Zichen didn't have this kind of thing on him. Moreover, it required 3,000 strands of energy to exchange for it. This number wasn't small. If he exchanged for 10 strands, he would have 30,000 strands. The current Zichen only had a few tens of thousands of strands of energy on him. Of course, the main reason was that he didn't embezzle other people's energy. At the same time, he also gave his own reward to the leaders as compensation. The Hall of Spiritual Spells. Marcus said, when we meet the Lord, I'll bring you there to take a look. You've been outside for so long, you should have a lot of energy on you, right? Zichen smiled bitterly. About 100,000 Dao strands. How can it be so little? Marcus couldn't believe it. One must know that Zichen had killed many people. Just the time he killed the rebel Fred, he had obtained more than 100,000 strands of energy. You didn't tell me before, so I didn't pay much attention to it and distributed the energy to some people. Zichen explained his management style outside. After hearing this, Marcus repeatedly gave Zichen a thumbs up. I'm impressed, I'm impressed. There aren't many people like you in this world. Now, the leaders outside are all trying their best to embezzle as much as possible. The 2 of them went to Apebot's mansion. Apebot said some words of encouragement and then officially gave Zichen a token that belonged to him. Next, he could use the token to go to the outside world. However, every time he went out, he would need to consume energy. After receiving the token, Marcus took Zichen to the Hall of Spiritual Spells to exchange for resources. As for his residence, Marcus had already arranged it. It was right next to his. The Hall of Spiritual Spells was a large hall with 3 floors. There were many spiritual spell practitioners going in and out, and the lowest realm was the 4th strength realm. Marcus explained, most of these 4th strength realm practitioners are here to exchange for a type of crystal that is second only to pure energy. 10 for 1. Healing speed is good, but cultivation speed is not. Unless, they can exchange for martial crystals. There are martial crystals here? Zichen asked curiously. If you're lucky, you can find them. Under normal circumstances, you won't find any. Marcus said, because martial crystals are rare items, everyone is too busy collecting them. How can they be placed here? Chapter 5067. The Hall of Spiritual Spells had 3 floors and there were many people coming and going. Naturally, they were all spiritual spell practitioners. We exchange items in the Hall of Spiritual Spells. As for those spellbreakers, they have their own spellbreakers. They usually don't come here. The 2 of them entered the Hall of Spiritual Spells and saw many counters. In front of the counters, there were many beams of energy. Zichen saw killing crystals among them. He was a little surprised that there were such things. Marcus said, don't be surprised. A large portion of the killing crystals here came from you. They were originally rare items, but not anymore. Zichen walked forward and saw the price. 2,000 energy points could be exchanged for 1 killing crystal. Zichen had helped Marcus obtain many killing crystals. If they were to be converted to energy points, it would be a sky-high price. This was also why Marcus was willing to spend a lot of manpower and resources to search for Zichen. He even gave Fred 100,000 beams of energy in exchange for Zichen's safety. However, Zichen knew that the account could not be calculated like this. He was the one who dug up the killing crystals. However, there were too many people who had contributed. These people needed to be paid. Moreover, compared to the people before him, Marcus treated him the best. These killing crystals should be of the lowest grade. For those who are in the 4 strength state and below, they are considered good items. However, at our level, their effects are not that obvious. Marcus explained, for example, martial crystals are no longer effective for us unless it is the source of martial crystals. It is the same for killing crystals. If you want to make your weapon stronger, you need a source of killing crystals of a higher grade. What is the source of killing crystals? Zichen asked. Back then, in the mine, there was not much else, but there were many killing crystals. It is a killing crystal that contains some foreign objects. Marcus lowered his voice, however, this thing is too dangerous. Therefore, it is called a taboo. If you are lucky enough to dig up a palm, then the palm is the source of the killing crystal. As long as you refine the killing intent in the palm, the grade of your weapon will naturally increase. You can even refine it and use it directly. It will become a real killing weapon. It doesn't matter if it's dead, but if one of them is alive, it will be a huge problem. Marcus said, therefore, under normal circumstances, almost no one would go looking for killing crystal sources. Therefore, its quantity is even rarer than martial crystal sources. The two of them walked to the place where they could exchange for pure energy. Only those who were in the 5 strengths realm could use it, and they would need to exchange 100 strands of energy for 1 strand. Just as Zichen was about to exchange for it, he found something similar on the side, but it required 150 strands of energy to exchange. As they continued to walk, the amount of energy required was also different. The highest actually required 500 strands of energy. This puzzled Zichen. How could this be? Marcus continued to explain, these pure energies have been refined and condensed. Their functions are also somewhat different. 100 strands of pure energy is only the most basic pure energy. The subsequent pure energies are based on this foundation. For every additional strand of pure energy, the price will increase accordingly. Unless it's a special situation, there's no need to exchange for those purer ones. Ordinary ones are enough. Marcus smiled. After all, to us, what we don't lack the most is time. Zichen felt that it made sense. He first exchanged for 50 strands of ordinary pure energy. Then, he went to the spiritual energy section. Sure enough, the lowest grade started at 3,000 strands of energy. The following prices increased by 500 strands of energy, and the highest was 6,000 strands of energy. Zichen directly exchanged for 10 strands of ordinary spiritual energy. After that, the two of them wandered around the place. Zichen saw a place that collected martial crystals. The purchase price was 10,000 strands of energy per piece. The selling price was not. The selling price of killing crystals was 2,000 strands of energy, while the collecting price was 1,800 strands of energy per piece. This time, Zichen had prepared a lot of killing crystals. If he were to sell them, it would be a huge sum. However, at the moment, he did not have such plans. Marcus pointed to the upper level and said, there are more things up there. However, you need to be in the 6 strengths realm to enter, or have the authority of the 6 strengths realm. At most, there are various materials from the dead spell-breaking beasts. Some can be used to refine weapons, while others are ingredients. After looking around, the two of them walked out of the Hall of Magic. Just as they walked out of the hall, they saw a group of people walking towards them. The person in the lead was wearing guardian armor and holding a long staff in his hand. When Zichen saw the other party's attire, a look of surprise flashed across his face. It seemed that this was the first time he had seen such attire. Not good, it's Lu Yao. When he saw the person, Marcus's face could not help but change. Zichen looked at Marcus and realized that he was very nervous. In this spell-breaking city, there are not many people who have guardian armor. Lu Yao is one of them. Marcus said, this kind of guardian armor is extremely rare. With this armor, he has a chance to escape when facing a 6 strengths realm cultivator. His armor was not refined, but dug out from a crystal. It is said that it has a lot of growth potential. Let's hurry up and get out of the way. This person is too arrogant. He doesn't even put spell breakers in his eyes. The two of them moved to the side, not wanting to provoke the other party. Lu Yao, who was walking closer, suddenly stopped. He glanced at Marcus, then looked at Zichen and said, you are the person who has the weapon? Give me the weapon, and this is for you. Lu Yao stretched out his hand, took out 3 kill crystals, and threw them on the ground. Exchange. Marcus's face changed. He did not expect the other party to come for Zichen. This made him feel that he was in trouble. After all, Lu Yaro was different from other 5 strengths realm cultivators. With the guardian armor, he was a true powerhouse. Zichen looked at Lu Yaro and frowned slightly. Why? You think it's too little? I'll give you 2 more. He took out another 2 kill crystals and threw them on the ground with an arrogant attitude. Kid, if you know what's good for you, quickly take the things and leave. 5 kill crystals in exchange for your weapon. You've struck gold. That's right. Hurry up and thank Lu Yaro. The few people following Lu Yaro immediately started to jeer. Zichen glanced at them and clearly saw that they were up to no good. Since they were deliberately targeting him, there was no need to be patient. With a flash in his hand, he took out 10 kill crystals and said, "Use these to exchange for your armor." With that, Zichen threw the kill crystals in his hand, and they landed at Lu Yaro's feet. "Look, I'm much more generous than you." Zichen smiled faintly. Seeing this, everyone immediately stopped smiling. They looked at Zichen as if they were looking at a dead man. This guy dared to treat Lu Yaro with such an attitude. He was dead meat. Do you want to die? Lu Yaro's eyes flashed coldly. Zichen looked straight at him without fear. What about you? Kid, you really don't know what's good for you. Lu Yaro personally came here to exchange with you, and you dare to humiliate Lu Yaro. Do you want to die? Someone immediately reprimanded. He only took out 5 kill crystals, and that's an exchange. I took 10, and that's a humiliation. Zichen smiled coldly. If that's the case, then I'll take back 5. With a wave of his hand, a light of energy appeared and flew back with the 5 kill crystals. Alright, it's fair now. Chapter 5068. Zichen looked at Lu Yaro with an indifferent expression. The word exchange shocked everyone. They looked at Zichen as if they were looking at an idiot. How dare he speak to Lu Yaro with such an attitude? Did he have a death wish? This was Lu Yaro they were talking about. He was one of the few people in Shattering Dharma City who possessed armor. He was also one of the few people who dared to attack a 6-strength spellbreaker beast. Lu Yaro's eyes narrowed as boundless killing intent burst out from them. He was infuriated by Zichen's attitude. Marcus was worried that Lu Yaro would cause trouble. Lu Yaro, what is the meaning of this? There is no such thing as coercion in Shattering Dharma City. Who do you think you are to speak here? Lu Yaro glanced at Marcus. You. Marcus's eyes flashed with anger, but he did not dare to reprimand Lu Yaro. You better stay in the city. Don't go out. Lu Yaro glared at Zichen coldly. Because I will kill you the moment you step out of here. Zichen said calmly, do it now if you dare. Let's see who will kill who. Kid, that's enough. Can't you see that Lu Yaro is giving you a way out? Don't be so shameless. Someone beside Lu Yaro said unhappily. That's right. Lu Yaro is giving you face, so you better take it. Another person said. Who do you think you are? Do I need you to give me face? Zichen said disdainfully. You have the guts to look for trouble, but now you don't dare to fight. It's disgusting to meet cowards like you. What did you say? Do you dare to say it again? The few of them stared coldly at Zichen. I have even beaten up spellbreakers in Shattering Dharma City. Who do you think you are? Zichen continued, do it if you dare. If I don't beat you until you kneel and call me your grandpa, I will never step into Shattering Dharma City again. Marcus was anxious. Zichen was obviously provoking them. Zichen did not know Lu Yaro's methods, but Marcus knew that Lu Yaro was not someone to be trifled with. Come with me outside the city if you dare. Lu Yaro's eyes spat fire as he issued a challenge. If you have the ability, then fight here. If you don't, then scram. You're so F***king annoying. Zichen waved his hand and put away the 5 killing crystals. Those who don't know would think that you're amazing. Of course, he wasn't afraid of these guys. If these people dared to make a move, he wouldn't mind sending them to heaven. Of course, this was his first time here, so Zichen wouldn't take the initiative to attack. At this moment, many people were watching this scene. Some of them had mocking expressions on their faces, while others had evil intentions in their eyes. In order to reduce the amount of trouble that would follow, Chen did not mind using these idiots to establish his authority. You don't have the guts to make a move, yet you all dare to provoke me. You're not even as good as those spell breakers who lost to me. You deserve to be looked down upon. Chen was obviously deliberately fanning the flames and provoking him. You're courting death. Lu Yarrow was enraged. Light swirled around his body, and he was about to attack. Don't be rash. The expressions of the people beside him changed drastically, and they quickly stopped him. Things were indeed a little unexpected. They thought that with Lu Yarrow's reputation, they could easily intimidate the other party. They wanted to show him who was the boss first, and then find time to deal with him. They didn't expect this kid to be so difficult to deal with. Not only was he not afraid, but he was also deliberately provoking him. To be honest, if the two of them really fought, they believed that Lu Yarrow could kill Chen with a single blow. However, there were rules. They weren't spellbreakers, so they didn't dare to violate them. At this moment, they could only suffer in silence. Bad luck. I forgot to look at the almanac before I left. I met a bunch of idiots. Chen walked away, cursing. Marcus caught up with him. The surrounding people's gazes followed Chen. Many of them had cold looks in their eyes. Marcus followed beside Chen, feeling the pressure on his back. On the other hand, Chen's expression was calm, and he wasn't affected at all. After walking far away, Marcus said worriedly that Lu Yarrow's combat power is very strong, especially his defense. He's not even afraid of a 6-force spell-breaker beast. This time, you've provoked him. This matter will be difficult to resolve. Chen said, don't worry. I don't intend to let him go. Marcus looked at Chen in surprise. His armor is good. It should suit me well. Chen's answer gave Marcus a shock. Are you serious? In this place, resources are hard to come by. Since someone has taken the initiative to come to me, there's no need to miss it. Looking at Chen's serious expression and thinking about Chen's battle record, he began to pray for Lu Yarrow. Perhaps this guy had made an unwise choice by provoking Chen. After returning to his residence, Chen took out a strand of pure energy to refine. It was indeed much purer than ordinary energy, but it wasn't very useful to Chen. After refining this strand of pure energy, Chen took out another strand of spiritual energy. This kind of energy was quite compatible with him. When he refined it, it felt like he was refining martial crystals. Of course, it was just an illusion. It wasn't really comparable to martial crystals. Even if martial crystals were useless to those at the 5-force realm, it was still much stronger than spiritual energy. However, no one would waste such a precious item. Hey, who's here? Chen heard a voice coming from outside the door. A 5-force realm who just came in. I heard that he offended Lu Yarrow. Lu Yarrow said that whoever can twist his head off will be given 20 killing crystals. Another voice sounded. Chen heard the voice and walked out. He saw 2 people at the 4-force realm standing outside the door. As soon as he came out, the 2 of them walked away. Looking into the distance, there were many people. They stood in the distance and pointed at this place. Among them, Chen saw some familiar faces that he had been outside before. He frowned slightly. Marcus also walked out from next door. Seeing this situation, he knew that something was wrong. Chen had just arrived, and it was obvious that there was already trouble. As Chen walked out, no one said anything sarcastic. However, there were still many whispers. At this moment, there was a commotion. The crowd suddenly separated and a group of people walked out. These people were all spellbreakers. In this place, spellbreakers seemed to be superior to others and didn't put anyone in their eyes. We meet again. Phoebe, who was among the spellbreakers, looked at Chen indifferently. Saula Lee and the others also had extremely cold eyes. The people who were beaten up by him last time were all here. All of them had unfriendly gazes. The people in the distance stopped whispering and looked forward to see how Chen would deal with these spellbreakers. One should know that they didn't follow the rules. If they wanted to attack, it would be a matter of minutes. Chen looked at them and said, "Long time no see. Why? You have martial Jingsha again? What do you mean?" Saula Lee looked at Chen coldly. She was the first to come into contact with Zi Chen. Back then, Zi Chen was only at the 2-force realm. However, not long after, he had reached the 5-force realm. If she didn't have other opportunities and broke through, she might not be as good as him. If you don't have martial Jingsha, don't provoke me. Zi Chen's voice was cold. I'm very busy. I don't have the time to beat you up. As soon as he said that, there was an uproar. Obviously, no one expected Zi Chen's opening statement to be such a blatant threat. Chapter 5069. There was an uproar among the crowd. They did not expect Zi Chen to be so bold that he even dared to threaten the spellbreakers. These spellbreakers were all in the 5-strength state. Their actual combat power was even higher than spiritual casters of the same level. Each of them was extraordinary, but there were 6 of them. What do you mean? Phoebe's face was cold. When he saw Zi Chen again, he did not immediately attack him. He was already very calm. But this guy actually dared to provoke him. Zi Chen glanced at him. Have you forgotten the lesson from last time? Before you provoke me, prepare the martial crystals first. Otherwise, you will die. In the entire Spellbreaker city, only Zi Chen dared to speak to the Spellbreakers like this. First, it was Lu Yao. Now, it was the Spellbreakers. Marcus could not help but admire Zi Chen's courage. Zi Chen turned around and walked towards his residence. These Spellbreakers might not dare to attack him today. Wait! Phoebe shouted. Do you really want to die? Zi Chen's eyes flashed coldly. We are here today to inform you that you will go on a mission with us tomorrow to clean up the Spellbreaker beasts. Phoebe said, we will leave tomorrow morning. When everyone heard this, their expressions changed. Why should I? Zi Chen's expression was disdainful. Who do you think you are? How dare you order me around? Zi Chen was not afraid of these people at all. Phoebe was not angry at being looked down upon. He looked at Marcus, who was not far away, and said proudly, you tell him, why should I? Marcus explained awkwardly, when we come here, we do need to kill the Spellbreaker beasts regularly. But usually, after we are familiar with this place, before Marcus could finish, he was interrupted by Phoebe. He doesn't need to familiarize himself with this place. He just needs to follow us tomorrow. We will protect him. Marcus heard this and smiled bitterly. The other party did not use force but used this method. It was obvious that Zi Chen could not refuse and had to obey. The lawbreaker had the right to do so. Among the crowd, the gazes of the spirit casters that looked at Zi Chen also became extremely pitiful. It was his bad luck to have offended a lawbreaker. He had just arrived in Broken Law City and had to go on a mission in less than a day. Looking at their expressions, it was obvious that something unexpected would happen in tomorrow's mission. And Zi Chen was bound to die in that accident. For a moment, many people looked at Zi Chen as if they were looking at a dead man. Similar incidents had happened far too many times in the past. You're in such a hurry to call me out. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you one by one outside? Zi Chen's voice was cold. He knew very well what these people were up to. What are you talking about? No matter if it's a spellbreaker or a spirit caster, infighting is forbidden. Everyone's enemy is the spellbreaker beast. Only by working together to kill the law-breaking beast can everyone survive better. Butterball and Count finally spoke, but it was obvious that no one believed his words. Once Zi Chen left tomorrow, he would definitely not be able to return. Is that so? Then you're on your own. Zi Chen smiled coldly and walked back to his room. Zi Chen was not surprised that these few fellows came to find trouble. What he did not expect was that these people could not hold themselves back and did not even want to wait for a day. The faces of Phoebe and the rest were also cold. Zi Chen's attitude was too arrogant. What are you all looking at? Why aren't you scramming? After turning around and looking at the group of spirit casters, he scolded without holding back. Even though the group of spirit casters were angry, none of them dared to say anything at this moment. They turned around and left. Facing a lawbreaker, for many years, no spirit caster had the upper hand. Of course, Zi Chen was an exception. A few people were still standing there and did not leave. The leader was Lu Yao. You're not leaving because you're waiting for us to chase you away. Phoebe's expression was cold. He knew that Lu Yarrow was somewhat famous among spirit casters. However, in front of lawbreakers, he was still nothing. Lu Yarrow cupped his fists towards Phoebe and said, "I want to ask, are you still lacking people in your team tomorrow?" No, hurry up and scram. Now, when I see spirit casters, I get angry." Phoebe waved his hand as if he was chasing away flies. "Damn it, why don't you take a look at yourself? You still dare to come licking my face?" The smile on Lu Yarrow's face froze. He came with sincerity but did not expect that his warm face would be stuck on a cold butt. After all, he was a famous person among spirit casters. To be looked down upon like this, his expression was a little ugly. At this moment, Butterball and Kant asked, "Why are you asking this?" Lu Yarrow said, "I want to kill Zi Chen but I don't have the chance. If you lack people," although it was not appropriate to say these words in the city, there was no one here. Moreover, with lawbreakers around, no one would care. "Yes, your chance is here." Kant immediately said, "Tomorrow, you will come with us." Kant, who was speaking, looked at the others. Although Lu Yarrow was not worth mentioning among lawbreakers, he was somewhat famous among spirit casters. His combat strength was not ordinary. If he was willing to kill Zi Chen, they would be happy. Immediately, they nodded. At the same time, they looked at Lu Yarrow and found him more pleasing to the eye. Marquise quietly left the mansion and went to look for Albert. Once Zi Chen left tomorrow, he would definitely be in danger. He wanted to help plead for leniency and see if he could not go on a mission first. This Zi Chen really knows how to cause trouble. He has only been here for a day and he has already caused 2 troubles. Albert frowned when he heard this. Although he had expected this, it was still too fast. 1 Lu Yarrow and 6-5 Strength Realm lawbreakers. Just thinking about it gave him a headache. "Sir, it's not that Zi Chen wants to cause trouble. It's that they are deliberately looking for trouble." Marcus said, "Now, can you?" Without waiting for Marcus to finish, Ape Bert shook his head. "We've already troubled the higher-ups last time. If we go again, I'm afraid we won't be able to help and will be punished." Ape Bert thought for a moment and said, "Go tell Zi Chen to be careful. He doesn't have to complete the mission. Try to stay alive." Marcus saw that the Lord was troubled and did not say anything else. After returning, he could only pass on the message to Zi Chen. Zi Chen looked at Marcus and smiled. The other party was really good to him. "Don't worry, I won't die so easily." A cold glint flashed in Zi Chen's eyes. "If I want to break through quickly, I naturally have to take some risks." When Marcus heard this, his expression changed. He looked at Zi Chen in disbelief. "They want to cause trouble for me, and I happen to want to have a heart-to-heart talk with them." Zi Chen sighed. "After all, I'm new here and don't know the people here. They took the initiative to find me. It's a timely help. It's really touching. Moreover, we're just taking what we need." Looking at Zi Chen's confident smile, Marcus felt more at ease. Early the next morning, Phoebe came. As if worried that Zi Chen would not go, the 6 of them came and personally asked Zi Chen to go on a mission. Chapter 50-70. The 6 of them had personally come to get Zi Chen. This was unprecedented, and they seemed to have a lot of face. However, those who heard the news knew very well that once they left the city today, Zi Chen might not be able to come back. However, the other party could not refuse. Zi Chen walked out when he heard the news. He looked at the 6 people in front of him. "Why are you in such a hurry? Are you rushing me?" Phoebe snorted coldly. They were rushing Zi Chen's life. However, he obviously would not say it out loud. He could only say solemnly, "The law-breaking beasts are wreaking havoc everywhere. Naturally, we have to get rid of them quickly. This way, fewer innocent people will die." Looking at the righteous expression on the other party's face, Zi Chen could not be bothered to respond. "Is everything ready?" Zi Chen asked. "What?" Phoebe was stunned. "Marshal Jingsha? If you guys encounter an accident, the Marshal Jingsha might be able to save your lives." Zi Chen said indifferently, "If you don't have the Marshal Jingsha when danger approaches, you'll probably die." They looked at each other and saw the anger in each other's eyes. Zi Chen was very bold. At this stage, Not only did he not take the initiative to beg for mercy, he even dared to threaten them. If you're ready, quickly lead the way. If you're not, I'll wait for you for a while. Zichen glanced at the few of them. Cultivation was not easy. If these rich people were willing to help, it would be best. We don't know what you're talking about. Let's go now, Phoebe urged. Killing the law-breaking beasts is very important. Don't waste any more time. Since he had reminded them, Zichen did not say anything else. Then, the 6 people spread out and almost surrounded Zichen, escorting him out of the city. During this time, some people wanted to see the final result and followed behind. However, after Phoebe and the others glanced at them coldly, they could only stop and did not dare to move forward. Along the way, Zichen's expression was very relaxed, as if he was on a scenic tour. His eyes would occasionally look at some strange things. Hey, Butterball, do you often go out to hunt lawbreaker beasts? Zichen turned his head and looked at Kant on his left. Kant seemed to be very dissatisfied with this form of address. A wisp of anger flashed in his eyes, but he did not reply. I'm asking you a question. Zichen frowned. Didn't you hear me? Yes, I go out a lot. Kant said, because there are mineral veins outside and some people need to be protected, we often clean up some Dharma breaker beasts. Hearing Kant's reply, the other 5 people looked at him with disdain. Zichen sighed. It seems that no matter if you come in or out, you can't avoid the fate of mining. Yesterday, Marcus had told him that some of the 3 strength realms who came here still had to mine. Even some of the 4 strength realms had to mine. It was just that the crystals they dug out were of higher quality, and they wouldn't be squeezed to death like outside, so the treatment was much better. As the group walked out of the city, Zichen saw numerous towering mountains in front of him. Although they looked close, they were actually very far away. Butterball, have you ever mined? No, Dharma breakers are of noble status. They don't need to mine. Kant didn't care about the others' disdain. In short, he would answer all of Zichen's questions. Zichen seemed to see that he was very cooperative, so all of his questions were directed at him. To be able to remain so calm in such a place, you sure have gut. After walking out of the city and walking for a while, Phoebe suddenly spoke with a cold voice. Zichen glanced at him. You're not small either. You've already suffered once, but you still haven't learned your lesson. Everyone's expression changed slightly. H, what happened last time was just an accident. Phoebe's eyes flickered with a cold light. This time, he seemed to realize that he had misspoken, so he quickly shut his mouth. The others also stared at Phoebe with warning eyes. They had just left the city. If Zichen changed his mind and ran away, that would be troublesome. Zichen said disdainfully, what's the point of pretending at a time like this? I know very well what you're scheming. There are only 2 paths this time. One is for you to kill me, and the other is for me to kill the 6 of you. Everyone's expressions changed again. They didn't expect Zichen to have guessed it. Butterball and Kant immediately asked, didn't you say that we can use martial crystals to trade for our lives? Butterball regretted it as soon as he said that. Sure enough, the other 5 looked at him as if they were looking at an idiot. Their expressions were full of disdain, as if they couldn't be bothered to be associated with him. Zichen laughed when he heard that. That's right. We can use it to save our lives. He looked at Kant. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Actually, among the 6 of you, you're the one who knows best. People like you usually live a long life. Follow me from now on. What nonsense are you talking about? Without waiting for Kant's reply, Phoebe said indifferently, it's always you spiritual spellcasters who follow behind us like dogs. When was it your turn to be the boss? That's right. You'd better correct your attitude, Solali said coldly. In this Dharma Shatterer city, we Dharma Shatterers are the noblest. We haven't arrived yet. Zichen frowned. You're courting death. You've chosen a little too far. Zichen was only one person, but he kept provoking them time and time again. This made them unable to bear it any longer. Their eyes were spitting fire, but when they thought of the plan, they could only suppress it. At this moment, 3 Dharma Shatterer beasts appeared in front of them. They were all in the 5 strengths realm. Perhaps they had just finished hunting. Kill. Phoebe saw this and roared angrily, charging forward. The anger that had been suppressed all along the way poured out immediately. A ray of light flew out from Phoebe's palm. It was soul power that was completely different from spiritual spells. It immediately entered the body of one of the Dharma Shatara beasts. That Dharma Shatara beast began to sway as if it had lost its center of gravity. Phoebe stepped forward and came in front of the beast. He landed a punch on the head of the Dharma Shatara beast. Wang. In an instant, infinite soul power burst out and the Dharma Shatara beast fell to the ground. The Dharma Shatara beast that fell to the ground resonated with the rules. Its body was decomposing, leaving behind 5 rays of energy. It was actually pure energy. 1 ray was equivalent to 100 ordinary rays of energy. At this moment, the other 2 people also stepped forward and easily ended the life of the Dharma Shatara beast. At this moment, Zichen seemed to understand why Dharma Shataras were superior to others. This kind of killing power was already heaven-defying for ordinary spiritual spellcasters. Zichen turned to look at Kant. Butterball's expression changed. He took a few steps back and guarded against Zichen. The other 2 people also mobilized their energy. There were 6 of them. At this moment, 3 of them had left. If Zichen attacked at this moment, they would be in a very passive position. Each of you has the ability to kill a Dharma Shatara beast of the same level. Zichen did not attack, but asked. Of course. Kant nodded with a proud expression. For us, this is the most basic. What about the Dharma Shatara beast of the 6 forces state? Can you kill it? Zichen asked again. The pride on Butterball's face disappeared. The 6 forces state is a watershed. No one can kill a Dharma Shatara of a higher level. Zichen nodded. It seemed that even though the soul power of a Dharma Shatara was strong, there was still a limit. At this moment, Phoebe and the other 2 walked back. The 6 of them once again guarded Zichen as he moved forward. This time, after moving forward for a few miles, Zichen saw someone standing in front, seemingly waiting. Chapter 5071. Lu Yarrow stood in front. In a very conspicuous position. The reason why it was conspicuous was because the guardian armor was glowing, which was particularly eye-catching. He held a long staff in his hand, and 4 people followed behind him. Zichen frowned slightly. When Marcus arrived last night, he told him that Lu Yarrow had talked to a few people about the possibility of both sides joining forces. Today, they met again. In Lu Yarrow's hand, the long staff was raised high, and then slowly lowered it, pointing straight at Zichen. His eyes were full of cold murderous intent, and he provoked, "Do you dare to fight me?" Zichen stopped and turned to look at them. "Is this the helper you found?" Phoebe and the others stopped moving forward. Phoebe said, "If you have the ability, beat him first." The 6 of them were not in a hurry to attack. If Zichen could die in Lu Yarrow's hands, it would be best. Of course, the possibility of that was not high. Zichen stepped forward and looked at them. "Do you want to come at me together, or one by one? I can deal with you alone." Lu Yarrow waved the long staff in his hand, looking extremely confident as he walked forward slowly. Zichen nodded and said, "All right, but I'll be blunt today. If you want to fight me, you must prepare the martial crystal in advance, or I won't let you live." The expressions of the people behind Lu Yarrow changed. Of course, they were not afraid of Zichen, but they felt that this weirdo was still so greedy even when he was about to die. "You're courting death." Lu Yarrow suddenly sped up and smashed the long staff in his hand. A long saber appeared in Zichen's hand, and he blocked in front of him. Light shone, and the blade trembled. Clang! The 2 weapons met, creating a powerful ripple. "Lu Yarrow, be careful. That guy is good at sneak attacks." Someone behind reminded him, worried that Lu Yarrow would be careless. Wang! There was a strong vibration, and the 2 of them retreated. Zichen did not use the slaughter spirit. Lu Yarrow's armor glowed, forming an amazing defense. He moved forward again, and the long staff smashed down with full force. Zichen was still blocking, and did not take the initiative to attack. "That's it." Someone saw this and had a disdainful expression. "Aren't the rumors fake?" It said that when this guy was in the 4th strength realm, he could kill a 5th strength realm cultivator. Look at him. He's already being suppressed by Lu Yaro. He'll be beaten to death in a few rounds. When the people who followed Lu Yaro saw this scene, all of their worries disappeared. Zi Chen, who was fighting against Lu Yaro, kept retreating. He couldn't withstand Lu Yaro's power at all. Although the long saber in his hand was of a good grade, it was clearly not as good as the long staff. At this moment, there were already several cracks on it. We still can't be careless. I heard that he has a strange weapon on him, one of them said. Even now, he still hasn't used it. It's obvious that the rumors are exaggerated. Perhaps, after seeing Lu Yaro's astonishing defense, he knew that it would be useless even if he used it. These people discussed animatedly with relaxed expressions. The previous tension had disappeared without a trace. How could this be? Phoebe and the others were in disbelief. They didn't think that Lu Yaro alone could kill Zi Chen. The reason why he had agreed to let them come was because he wanted them to exhaust some of Zi Chen's strength. However, the reality seemed to be much better than they had expected. Zi Chen couldn't resist Lu Yaro's attacks at all. He was retreating step by step. Furthermore, that weapon was on the verge of being destroyed. He hasn't used that light yet. Don't be careless. Butterball and Kant cautioned cautiously. They had experienced Zi Chen's strength, so they didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless. Sanlali also nodded and said, "He's very cunning. We just have to be cautious." Boom, boom, boom. A powerful energy surged in front of them. Zi Chen kept retreating. The long saber in his hand was chipped more and more. "Is this all you've got?" Lu Yaro looked at Zi Chen and said disdainfully, "Is this what gives you the right to be arrogant?" In the next moment, the long staff in his hand smashed down again. The long staff released a dazzling light, and an almost violent energy surged out. Boom. In the face of this attack, the long saber in Zi Chen's hand was completely broken. The powerful energy surged, and his body was pushed back several meters. The people brought by Lu Yaro were cheering loudly. They were very excited. What is this guy doing? Butterball and Kant were very confused. Zi Chen couldn't be so weak. If he was so easy to deal with, why did the 6 of them have to spend so much effort? Why did he let them suffer such a big loss? Could it be that Zi Chen hasn't made a move yet because of Lu Yaro's defense? Phoebe guessed, can his defense really block Zi Chen's attack? This was very likely. For a moment, they were a little excited. If that was the case, they didn't mind immediately killing Lu Yaro and taking the armor. Go to hell. Lu Yaro jumped high and smashed down with the staff with both hands. That's enough playing. It's time to end it. Zi Chen threw away the saber in his hand. The next moment, the bone staff was in his hand. He didn't attack. He was still blocking horizontally. The long staff landed on the bone staff. There was a loud explosion, and countless ripples spread out. That's it. Amidst the cheers of those people, Zi Chen used the light of sprite commandeering. Fart. Like a flash of lightning, it directly pierced through Lu Yaro's head. The armor could only protect the body, but it couldn't protect the head at all. In addition, the light of sprite commandeering was too fast. Lu Yaro's body swayed. He couldn't react at all. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and heal your injuries. Zi Chen looked at him and kindly reminded him. Heal my injuries. Lu Yaro gritted his teeth, but just as he opened his mouth, the light came again and pierced his head. The cheers behind turned into cries of surprise. And it was a cry of fear. The energy around Lu Yaro's body no longer listened to him. He finally sensed the danger. He retreated with fear in his eyes. At this moment, the bone staff in Zi Chen's hand swept forward. Half of Lu Yaro's arm was gone. It was originally half of his body, but the armor blocked the light of the bone staff. It was obviously a good thing. Zi Chen's eyes lit up. He attacked again. Lu Yaro's other arm was also gone, and the ring fell to the ground. Don't kill me, don't kill me, Lu Yaro shouted in fear. At this moment, he was finally afraid. As for the people in the distance, they were so scared that they retreated. They didn't expect Zi Chen to be so terrifying. Phoebe and the others looked at each other, and they all had an expression of as expected. Zi Chen walked in front of Lu Yaro and looked at the terrified man. He said, "Don't be afraid. I won't kill you, even if you don't have martial crystals on you." As he spoke, he directly took off the other party's armor and put it on in front of everyone. The armor shone and could shrink on its own. It fit him very well. He was very satisfied. Then, he picked up Lu Yaro's long staff and said, "Don't worry, I won't kill any more after taking this. We still have to talk about principles." Then, under the stunned gazes of the crowd, Zi Chen walked towards the few lawbreakers who were also stunned. "The few of you, are you going to hand over your martial crystals in exchange for your lives, or do I have to beat you up until you hand over your lives?" Zi Chen held the long staff in his hand and put on the armor. "You're courting death." The 6 of them were furious. They obviously wouldn't give in just like that. Zi Chen, who had snatched Lu Yaro's equipment, raised the long staff at the 6 of them. He smashed it down, without hesitation. A sharp whistling sound was heard. "Go to hell." The 6 of them were all in the 5 strength state and were lawbreakers. Naturally, they were not afraid of Zi Chen and began to fight together. Then, under the shocked gazes of the crowd, Zi Chen withstood the attacks of the lawbreakers and knocked them down with one strike. In less than 10 breaths of time, the 6 of them who were full of confidence earlier began to beg for mercy. "I have martial crystals." Butterball and Cant reacted the fastest. They immediately took out a piece of martial crystals and raised it. He had prepared it long ago in case something happened. Chapter 5072. Butterball and Cant fell to the ground and quickly got up, taking out a piece of martial crystal. "I have a martial crystal, I have it." His reaction was the fastest. Obviously, he was already prepared. Zi Chen held a long rod in his hand and wore the armor he had snatched. He was happy. "Here, exchange your life." Cant raised the martial crystal, somewhat frightened. The people who followed Lu Yaro in the distance were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. In their eyes, spellbreakers were all arrogant existences. In front of spellbreakers, they would always be superior. But today, it had changed. They were afraid of a spellbreaker. Zi Chen's gaze moved and looked at the others. "It seems that you guys are not prepared. Then don't blame me for being impolite." Killing intent flashed in his eyes. Zi Chen waved the long rod in his hand, and a sharp whistle sounded. "Wait, I have one too." Sang Larry screamed and also took out a piece of martial crystal. At this time, it seemed that there was nothing to be ashamed of. Surviving was the most important thing. Then, Phoebe and the others each took out a piece of martial crystal. They were all prepared. Seeing this in the distance, the corner of Lu Yaro's mouth twitched. Obviously, he had been fooled. These fellows had long anticipated this step. He was the only one who foolishly thought that he could really kill Zi Chen. He did not expect that his equipment would be stolen. 6 people, 6 pieces of martial crystal. 1 for each person. Zi Chen held the long rod and took away the few pieces of martial crystal. Then, he carried the long rod on his shoulder. "Thank you for this time. But if there's a next time, each of you will get 2 pieces of martial crystal." "Why?" Cant asked. "Because your realm is high. If I ask you for another piece, wouldn't it be a slap to your face? In any case, you are all spellbreakers of the 5 Forces realm. Naturally, I have to think highly of you." Zi Chen glanced at them and said, "And this time, you guys are not as good as Lu Yao. Look at them, what did they bring out? Look at you guys, isn't it a little shabby?" The word shabby is used rather brilliantly. This is the first time in many years that someone has used this word to describe a spellbreaker. A calm voice came from the front. When Zi Chen heard the voice, he immediately turned his head. His expression was full of vigilance. There was a person standing there. In this environment, there was no light that represented power around him. This made Zi Chen's expression change. This person was at the 6 Forces realm. "Spike, you're finally here." After seeing the other party, Phoebe and the others all had happy expressions on their faces. Lu Yaro was stunned for a moment before he sneered. Clearly, he didn't expect them to have prepared such a backup plan. There was no doubt that Zi Chen was going to die. The expressions of those who had retreated in the distance also changed at this time. Six Forces state. Zi Chen looked at the other party. Marcus had told him before that those at the Six Forces realm would not care about such matters. Under normal circumstances, he could only get rid of those 6 spellbreakers. That would be equivalent to resolving the crisis. You've got guts. How dare you steal from the spellbreakers? Spike walked forward. In your eyes, do you have any respect for the rules? You said steal. That's not right. Zi Chen corrected him. When they were in danger, I righteously saved their lives. Therefore, each of them gave me a piece of martial crystal as thanks. Is that wrong? Zi Chen waved the long rod in his hand. Compared to Lu Yarrow, their thanks were much more shabby. They even gave me their equipment. Lu Yarrow was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. This guy was obviously lying through his teeth. Spicer shook his head. No, actually the truth is that you came here and suddenly became greedy, snatching everyone's resources. I, Spike, happened to pass by and helped you. I accidentally killed you. It turned out that this was the other party's plan. That's right. We can all prove it. Phoebe sneered. Those people in the distance also shouted. 6 Strength state. Zi Chen had fought before. However, he had never fought with a 6 Strength state spellbreaker. He wondered if his soul power could block it. Wang. Without saying much, Spike charged toward Zi Chen with his soul power vibrating. Zi Chen held the long rod in his hand. Wearing his armor, he charged towards the other party. However, Spike only took a few steps forward and stopped. His expression was relaxed. With a flick of his finger, a ray of light flew out. The long rod smashed down and landed on it. It was not an attack of the same level. That ray of light quickly followed the long rod and entered Zi Chen's mind. Zi Chen suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head, and his speed slowed down. Compared to a 6 Strength state spellcaster, this move of a spellbreaker was much more terrifying. That's it. Looking at Zi Chen, who suddenly stopped, Spike smiled in disdain. The light in his hand flashed again. His soul power was like a real ray of light that flew towards Zi Chen. Zi Chen stood there and wanted to avoid it. However, he did not succeed. The ray of light landed on his body and entered his mind. Its attack power was stronger than before. Zi Chen let out a scream and the long rod in his hand fell to the ground. Wang. A second ray of light appeared in Spike's hand. Zi Chen directly fell to the ground. The intense pain made him roll on the ground. As expected, no matter how powerful you are, you can't fight someone of a higher level. Seeing this, Phoebe sneered, the difference between 6 Strength state and 5 Strength state is like heaven and earth. Zi Chen could block their attacks. However, he could not block the attacks of a 6 Strength state spellbreaker. When Lu Yarrow saw this, he was extremely happy. This was the foundation of a spellbreaker's strength. This was also the real reason why spellcasters were inferior. Here, lawbreakers were able to develop mysterious soul power. Spike walked in front of Zi Chen. He held a soul light sword in his hand and pointed the tip of the sword at Zi Chen. He looked at the few of them and asked, "Kill or not kill?" "Kill." The few of them did not hesitate. They came here to kill Zi Chen. Wang. At this moment, the light of spirit commandeering moved. Like a bolt of lightning, it charged towards Spike. Spike sneered and said, "Is it useful?" A real light appeared. It carried the power of rule force and blocked the light of spirit commandeering. At the same time, the soul light sword in his hand landed on Zi Chen's body. Swish. The soul light sword directly entered the sea of consciousness. With the will to destroy everything, it charged towards Zi Chen's soul. Zi Chen felt that his soul was about to be torn apart. He let out a scream and almost fainted. His body was still rolling, still struggling. He's not dead yet. Interesting. In his hand, soul power formed a long blade and the blade light slashed downwards. Wang. The blade light entered the sea of consciousness again and slashed towards the depths of Zi Chen's soul. Zi Chen's body was trembling. He was in incomparable pain as he rolled on the ground. "Let's see how long you can last." Spike sneered again and again. The attacks in his hand continued to fall. Each attack was very terrifying. Phoebe and the others stood at the side and began to laugh at him. At this moment, they were completely relieved. Since it was like this, Zichen would definitely not make a comeback. Lu Yaro's injuries had recovered quite a bit. He also stood up. Looking at Zichen, who was rolling on the ground, he only felt carefree. His mood was extremely carefree. The crowd in the distance was the same. Again, Spike's attack did not stop. After more than a dozen attacks failed to kill Zichen, Spike finally lost his patience. Alright, let's end this. In his hand, soul power turned into a spear. On the spear, there seemed to be blood dripping. A powerful aura was released. In the next moment, he held the spear in his hand and pierced towards Zichen's head. Wang. The light of the spear entered the sea of consciousness. With a murderous aura of destruction, it fell into the depths of Zichen's mind. There was a black stone floating quietly here. This was the core of Zichen's soul. The spear passed through the sea of consciousness and landed on the black stone. Pa. With a soft sound, a crack appeared on the black stone. Chapter 5073. Crack. The black stone was hit by the spear, and several cracks appeared on it. As if a seal had been opened, a black light immediately escaped from the black stone, filling Zichen's sea of consciousness. The spear was still there, releasing a terrifying aura, trying to destroy the escaping soul power. At this moment, the black stone shook. Buzz. There seemed to be a strange rule appearing from the sea of consciousness, and in an instant, it destroyed the soul power spear. In the black stone, the light continued to escape, filling Zichen's sea of consciousness. These lights were all soul power. They were real soul power. They seemed to be in a seal before, and as the spear shattered the black stone, they finally broke out of the seal. Spicer's attack landed. In his imagination, Zichen would scream, and then his body would disappear. However, such a scene did not happen. Zichen was still lying there, no longer rolling or screaming, as if he had fallen asleep, becoming very quiet. What's going on? Butterball and Kant were bewildered. Is he dead? Of course he was not dead, because below the six forces state, he would disappear if he died. This was the most basic common sense. However, right now, Zichen's situation was too strange, and they could not figure it out. This guy, could he be faking his death? Phoebe was also a little uncertain. Do you think we are idiots? Sang Lolly was so angry that he launched an attack. If he really dies, you will disappear. The energy attack landed on Zichen's body, but it was like a clay ox entering the sea, and did not cause the slightest ripple. I don't believe it. A cold light flashed across Spicer's face. In front of everyone, he could not kill a five forces state, and he felt very embarrassed. In his hand, energy vibrated violently, and countless soul power gathered in front of him, forming a spear. The spear was dripping blood, and every drop of blood was made of soul power. It looked exceptionally terrifying. Phoebe and the others could not bear the pressure of this soul power, and immediately retreated. They knew that their former comrade was truly enraged today. Buzz. Gripping the spear tightly in his hand, his soul power surged wildly as he thrust it forward. It directly pierced into Zichen's mind. Facing this attack, Zichen did not resist at all. At this moment, a violent aura suddenly erupted from Zichen's mind, forming a black storm. The long spear that Spike had just stabbed into Zichen's sea of consciousness seemed to have met its natural enemy as it quickly escaped. Shua. At this moment, the storm spread and engulfed the spear. In the next moment, the spear exploded. At the same time, the storm was wreaking havoc as it frantically expanded. The soul power contained within it caused everyone to be alarmed. What powerful soul power! Kant exclaimed. How could this be? He's a spirit caster, how can he have soul power? Phoebe was also in disbelief. Sang Lolly and the others looked at the raging storm of soul power in front of them with shock in their eyes. In Shattering Law City, spirit casters and spellbreakers were at odds with each other. However, there was a clear difference between the two. Spiritual techniques had energy, while breaking techniques had soul power. It was impossible for the two to be combined. Unless, a word that rarely appeared in their minds appeared. That was a very special existence. There were very few of them, and they were the top existences in this world. Shadow Destroyer. Could it be that Zi Chen was a Shadow Destroyer? As soon as this thought appeared, it was dispelled. The birth of every Shadow Destroyer in this world was extremely difficult. Moreover, there would be abnormalities a long time ago. It was impossible for it to be like this. But what was the deal with that soul power storm? Retreat quickly, that guy is strange. Spike shouted loudly. Only he, who had reached the Six Forces state, understood how terrifying the storm ahead was. It contained powerful and terrifying rules. Even though he had already come into contact with rules, he still felt a strong sense of danger from it at this moment. Right now, once the storm touched him, it would definitely be a crisis of death. And such a soul power storm did not seem like one that a Five Forces state should have. The spell breakers began to retreat. Of course, Lu Yaro and the others also retreated. The soul power storm ahead continued. Zi Chen lay in the storm as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. He did not know what had happened. As the soul power dissipated, the cracks on the black stone began to repair until they were completely healed. The storm that formed around him also slowly dissipated. A portion of the soul power disappeared in the surroundings, and a portion returned to the sea of consciousness. The people in the distance all watched from there, not daring to act rashly. Zi Chen sat up. He was very clear about what had happened just now. It was just that his body did not listen to him. In his mind, a new space appeared, and in this space, a piece of black stone quietly floated. And around the black stone, there was black soul power. It was extremely dense and sticky like fragments. This soul power was real, but when Zi Chen tried to mobilize it, he did not succeed. It was like a huge rock placed in front of him, but he did not have the strength to move it. After trying a few times without success, Zi Chen felt very regretful. He had a strong feeling that as long as he had enough power to mobilize this soul power, he would become a spellbreaker. Phoebe and the others had not retreated yet. They were still standing in the distance and watching. But now, they looked at Zi Chen as if they were looking at a monster. The soul power storm just now was too terrifying. Zi Chen also glanced at them. Without saying anything, he walked forward. Everyone immediately looked at Spicer. Spicer shook his head. The current Zi Chen, although looking normal, still gave him a dangerous feeling. He might have a treasure on him that can block my soul power attack. Spicer said, and you guys can't beat him, it might be because of this. Spicer's guess was already 80% close to the truth. It was just that he did not know that the treasure had already fused with Zi Chen's soul. Or in other words, that was Zi Chen's soul. It was just that after coming to this world, it had been sealed. And this time, because of Spicer's attack, a layer of the seal was released, allowing Zi Chen to face his own soul here. Under such circumstances, it would be very difficult for Spicer to kill him again. Zi Chen retracted the light of Imperial Spirit, picked up the long rod, and carried it back. Phoebe and the others watched as Zi Chen left. No one dared to stop him. They didn't have the strength to stop Zi Chen, and Spicer didn't know how many soul power storms could be unleashed by that precious treasure. Because that storm was too terrifying. Once he was swept up, even if he was at the Six Realms, he would not be able to survive. Zi Chen entered the city and walked towards his residence. Along the way, when everyone saw Zi Chen, they all looked as if they had seen a ghost. Wherever Zi Chen passed, there would be countless exclamations. Chapter 5074. Zi Chen's return caused a sensation. Everyone came out to take a look. When they saw Zi Chen's battle armor and long staff, everyone was dumbfounded. They exclaimed, "Isn't that Lu Yaro's equipment? Why is it with Zi Chen?" Zi Chen arrived at his residence without a word. Marcus had already heard the news and was waiting here. Seeing Zi Chen's equipment, there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. "Where's Lu Yaro?" he immediately asked. "Behind. He should be back soon," Zi Chen said. "Oh." Marcus seemed surprised because under normal circumstances, it should be a life and death battle. "He gave this to me. How can I have the nerve to kill him again?" When Zi Chen spoke, many people in the distance were listening and were extremely surprised. Did he defeat Lu Yarrow? What about Sang Larry and the others? Marcus asked again. This was also the question in everyone's heart. At this moment, they all looked at Zichen. Zichen said, "They'll be back soon." That's it. Marcus was looking forward to it. He didn't expect to get such an answer. What else? Zichen asked. They didn't make things difficult for you? No. Zichen said, they're good people. After taking me out for a chat, each of them gave me a piece of martial crystal. As soon as this was said, it immediately caused an uproar. They remembered what Zichen said yesterday. If they wanted to live, they had to prepare a piece of martial crystal. Now it seemed that all 6 of them were defeated and had to take out martial crystals in exchange for their lives. For a moment, everyone was extremely shocked. They were all guessing how Zichen did it. Soon, the news came that they had indeed returned. No one died. Zichen returned to his room and continued to study his soul power. Phoebe and the others returned. They were no longer as energetic as when they left. They were all dejected. Even Spike, who was at the 6 Forces realm, could not kill Zichen. It would be too difficult for them to kill Zichen. In the room, Zichen tried again and again to circulate his soul force, but to no avail. The soul power in his sea of consciousness was abundant and powerful, but he was unable to mobilize it. Those who had not been mobilized were naturally spirit spellcasters. Once there was soul power, it would be the combination of a spirit caster and a spellbreaker. Shadow Destroyer. Marcus had said that such existences were extremely rare because they were extremely powerful. Phoebe and the others returned. The news of their failure to plot against Zichen once again spread. This infuriated them greatly. Damn it. Not only do they have those strange weapons, but they also have treasures that can protect their souls. Why is it that he has all the good stuff? Phoebe was very angry. Even now, they still believed that the reason Zichen was still alive was that the supreme treasure on him was protecting him. What should we do now? Butterball and Kant said, are we going to let him get away with it and then mock us? Sang Larry said, what else can we do? If we can't kill him now, are we going to find a 7 Forces realm cultivator? Of course, this was unrealistic. The reason why they could find Spike was that they were very familiar with each other and had been in the same realm for a long time. That was why they were willing to help. The few of them gathered together and did not think of a good idea. Instead, they accumulated a bellyful of anger. When the news spread, Zichen shocked everyone again. Marcus went to tell Ape-Bert the latest news. After Ape-Bert heard it, a look of shock immediately appeared on his face. Even a 6 Forces realm cultivator can't kill him? His expression changed. What kind of supreme treasure is that? Spike was a 6 Forces realm spellbreaker. If he faced Ape-Bert head-on, Ape-Bert had no confidence in winning. Now, he finally understood why Zichen was not afraid of those spellbreakers. It turned out that he had the protection of a soul power supreme treasure. This kind of thing was definitely rare in Pofa City. Arbort tapped the table lightly with his finger and fell into deep thought. You know everything. He looked at Marcus. Marcus did not know what Ape-Bert was thinking. He said directly, the people who came back didn't hide it. The news should spread soon. Ape-Bert nodded and said, what kind of supreme treasure do you think it is? Marcus shook his head. I'm not sure. I've never seen it before. Maybe it's not a supreme treasure, but Zichen's original soul power. A spirit spell breaker can't have such powerful soul power. Ape-Bert said again, say, if I have this supreme treasure, will I not be afraid of the spellbreakers? Marcus' expression changed. The reason why the spellbreakers are powerful is that they have soul power that we can't resist. That's why they are superior to others. Ape-Bert said, and once we have a soul power supreme treasure, will we be able to suppress them? Sir, what do you mean? Marcus looked at Ape-Bert. Ape-Bert smiled and said, don't think too much. I'm just asking out of curiosity. After all, we've never seen a soul power supreme treasure before. By the way, go and tell Zichen that he did well this time, but don't be careless. The spell breakers rarely suffer losses. They might come up with some bad tricks. When the time comes, I won't be able to protect him even if I want to. Yes. Marcus nodded and left Ape Bert's residence. After leaving Ape Bert's residence, Marcus finally heaved a sigh of relief. He was really worried that Lord Bert would say what he thought. Originally, he wanted to share this good news with Lord Bert, but now it seemed that was not the case. It seems that Zi Chen might be in trouble again. Marcus shook his head helplessly. Even Lord Bert's mood was not normal, let alone the others. Once the news spread, everyone would be talking about the Soul Power Supreme Treasure. Maybe Lord Bert was reminding me to persuade Zi Chen to hand over the Supreme Treasure in exchange for Ping An? Marcus shook his head again. That was obviously impossible. Even if there really was a Supreme Treasure, if Zi Chen was willing to hand it over, it would only be a dead end. Because without the protection of the Supreme Treasure, any one of Phoebe and the others could kill him. He wanted to go back immediately and remind Zi Chen to be careful. Just as he walked to the door, he saw someone arrive ahead of him. Zi Chen, get out here. This voice came from Lu Yaro. Even without his armor and weapon, he was still arrogant and domineering. Because there was a 6th strength realm cultivator beside him. This was his teammate. Lord Ogiust is here. Hurry up and come out to greet him, Lu Yaro shouted again. Zi Chen walked out of the room, wearing his armor and holding a long staff. What are you shouting for? Ogiust stood there, no energy surging around him. He narrowed his eyes and stared at Zi Chen. You're Zi Chen? Who are you? Zi Chen looked at him. Why aren't you greeting Lord Ogiust when you see him? Lu Yaro roared. Ogiust waved his hand and said, there's no need to greet me. Hand over Lu Yaro's weapon and armor with both hands and apologize to Lu Yaro. Then, this matter will be settled. Chapter 5075. What did you say? Zi Chen looked at Ogiust. I told you to return the item and then kneel down and apologize. Don't you have ears? Lu Yaro stared at Zi Chen and shouted. You've got guts. Zi Chen's eyes flashed coldly. Did you forget how you begged for mercy? Open your dog eyes wide and look. Lord Ogiust is here. Lu Yaro angrily rebuked. What's with your attitude? Ogiust coldly said, I don't want to repeat the same words a second time. Zi Chen looked at him. Why should I? Ogiust narrowed his eyes. What do you think? I say you're crazy. Zi Chen's eyes had a hint of ridicule. Did you eat the wrong medicine? Are you trying to act like a character in front of me? Why don't you take a look at yourself? I'm not even afraid of a 6 Forces realm lawbreaker, so why should I be afraid of you? Zi Chen's rude words caused an uproar. This was clearly a confrontation, and there was no room for reconciliation. You want to die? Ogiust's eyes flashed with killing intent. He originally thought that as long as he said a few words, the other party would definitely obediently return the item. He never thought that the other party's attitude would be so bad. If you have the ability, then do it. If you don't, then get lost. Zi Chen looked at Ogiust and disdainfully said, I hate people like you who don't have the ability and talk a lot of nonsense. Zi Chen looked at Lu Yaro again. Serves those lawbreakers right for looking down on you. Look at how you can't afford to lose. Look at them, which one of them isn't honest? After saying that, Zi Chen turned and returned to his room. Stop! Ogiust angrily shouted, his eyes fixed on Zi Chen. Zi Chen stopped, looked at the other party, and coldly said, if you have the ability, then do it now. If you don't, then get lost. Lu Yaro shouted, Zi Chen, don't be so proud. You blocked the lawbreakers because you have a soul power treasure, but in front of a spirit mage, your treasure is useless. As long as there's a light, you'll die. Now, obediently kowtow and admit your mistake. Otherwise, you know the consequences. I told you to scram, but you didn't. Looks like you're here to get scolded. Zi Chen could see that the two obviously did not dare to make a move, and he also did not dare to make a move here, so he could only fight with the two of them. Why should I return the things that I obtained with my own strength? A spirit caster of the 6 Forces realm, what are you? Even a 6 Forces level spellbreaker didn't ask for anything from me. Who do you think you are? You don't have the guts to make a move, yet you dare to come to my place and look for trouble. Is there something wrong with your brains, or do you need a scolding? Zi Chen did not hold back in front of this Six Realms cultivator, and he began to scold him. The Six Forces realm cultivators were naturally furious, but they did not dare to make a move. From this, it could be seen that spirit casters were in an awkward position in Broken Law City. If it were those fellows, they would have attacked long ago. After a round of scolding, Zi Chen naturally wouldn't wait for the other party to scold him back. He turned around and entered the room, leaving behind a group of people with their heads buzzing. This should be the first in history to do so, right? Marcus really admired Zi Chen. He was too bold. However, on second thought, the other party had taken the initiative to come here this time to find trouble. The probability of both parties reconciling was too small. Since this was the case, it was normal for him to scold him to his heart's content. Ogiast was filled with anger, but he had no place to vent it. Even if he was a Six Realms cultivator, it was impossible for him to kill Zi Chen in this place. Therefore, they turned back with anger. If they wanted to kill Zi Chen, they had to lure him outside again. For a Six Realms cultivator, this was obviously not a difficult task. However, just as Ogiast was thinking of a way to get Zi Chen out, he encountered an obstacle. This made him feel very incredulous. He was a Six Realms cultivator, yet he couldn't make the decision for a Five Realms cultivator. Lu Yarrow waited outside. After a while, Ogiast walked out with a look of unwillingness on his face. "How was it?" Lu Yarrow asked. Ogiast shook his head and said, he didn't agree. Lu Yarrow was shocked and said, "How is that possible? It's just a mission to take him out. How could he not agree? That guy has a soul power treasure on him. Now, he has been targeted by many forces. Everyone is currently observing. Naturally, they don't dare to act rashly." Hearing Ogiast's words, Lu Yarrow said unwillingly, "Could it be that this is a good thing for him?" Even though Ogiast was unwilling in his heart, he had no other way to deal with Zi Chen. "Tomorrow, I'll look for Phoebe and the others. Maybe they can help." Lu Yarrow believed that after this incident, they would be more determined to kill Zi Chen. They would definitely help. There were many rules of a spiritual caster, but they were useless against a spellbreaker. "Alright, as long as we leave this place, I will definitely be able to kill him." Ogiast's eyes were full of killing intent. He was also full of confidence in killing Zi Chen. The next day, Lu Yarrow went to look for Phoebe. Phoebe was very unwilling to see him. After Lu Yarrow explained the purpose of his visit, Phoebe said angrily, "Do you think I'm an idiot?" "What do you mean?" Lu Yarrow felt a little confused. He asked for help this time to build a good relationship. He didn't have any ill intentions. Now, everyone knows that Zi Chen has a treasure on him. "You want me to take him out? Isn't it because you want to snatch that soul power treasure?" Phoebe said coldly. "You misunderstood. We don't mean that. We don't know what that treasure is. We just want to kill Zi Chen." Lu Yarrow promised solemnly, "As long as we can take Zi Chen out, we can kill him. Even if there is a treasure, we won't take it." Phoebe's expression softened. "You can go. Now, no one can take Zi Chen out." Lu Yarrow's expression suddenly changed. "Even you can't. This is the order of the higher-ups. No one can." Only then did Lu Yarrow realize the seriousness of the matter. It seemed that there were too many forces paying attention to Zi Chen's soul power treasure. These forces formed some kind of restraint between each other, and no one was willing to be the first to act. Lu Yarrow walked back, but he wasn't too disappointed. After all, he had talked to Phoebe, and there was still a possibility of cooperation in the future. Zi Chen stayed in his room, and for a long time, no one came to look for him. Even Marcus, who lived next door, did not come to look for him. Zi Chen stayed in his room and refined the energy. After refining the energy, he went to the Hall of Spiritual Spells to exchange. Along the way, many people looked at him strangely, but no one came to find trouble. This made Zi Chen feel a little strange. Even when the spiritual power in his body was almost refined, no trouble came to him. Zi Chen didn't refine those martial crystals. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but he couldn't bear to. He hoped to gather them together and exchange for a martial crystal source. Who knows, he might be able to advance again. Since no trouble came, He could only rely on himself. Otherwise, if he continued to stay in his room, there would be a day when the energy would be exhausted and he would die. And for such a long time, he had tried countless times to control his soul power, but to no avail. Maybe he had to reach the Six Forces realm. The slaughter spirit had long refined all the killing crystals and urgently needed to replenish. His resources were already stretched to the limit. Zichen left his room and went to find Marcus. He wasn't there, so he went to the place where the lawbreakers were and directly found Butterball and Kant. "Take me out and find some work." Seeing Butterball, Zichen directly explained his purpose. Chapter 5076. I still don't have a draft, my thoughts aren't clear, I'll update tomorrow. Thunder Warrior won't be updated today, it'll be updated tomorrow. It's in your hands, please wait a moment, after the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 5077. Butterball and Kant looked at Zichen as if they were looking at an idiot. "Didn't you hear me?" Zichen looked at Kant, who didn't react. "What did you say?" Kant wanted to confirm. "Take me out and find some work," Zichen repeated. Kant laughed, his eyes full of sarcasm. "Why?" Zichen clenched his fist. "Because of this." Kant's smile froze, and his eyes flashed. You dare to touch me? You dare to disregard the rules of Dharma Breaker City? I was walking by accident and stepped on your face. Does that count as breaking the rules?" Zichen asked. Kant's eyes twitched. Of course, he knew what Zichen meant. Even a blind man wouldn't step on his face if he was walking by himself. That was a warning. He looked around, but there was no one else. What if he really stepped on his face? "Why me?" Kant asked. "Why not them?" "I told you last time that people like you can survive easily," Zichen said, "so, you will follow me from now on because you have a long life." At this moment, people came from afar. Zichen had become famous recently. His words and actions were all closely watched. "What did you say?" Butterball and Kant saw people coming, so they raised their voices. "How dare you talk to a Dharma breaker like that?" Zichen touched his chin. "If you shout again, I will beat you to death." Kant's head shrank. He was really scared of Zichen. "Someone is watching. You don't dare to do it here." Zichen said, "I can hit you and then insist that you were the one who started it." You. Shameless. Kangda was really scared. He had run into a scoundrel. "What do you want?" Zichen stretched out 2 fingers and said, "You have 2 choices. One is to take me out and bring back some resources. The second is that you refuse to take me out and give me some resources so that I can continue to cultivate." "On what basis?" Seeing Zichen raise his fist again, Butterball and Kant were completely terrified. Ignoring the strange looks from the others, he sat down on the ground. "No one dares to let you out now. Everyone is watching you." Zichen had also guessed this. Recently, even Marcus did not look for him. It seemed that he was deliberately avoiding something. "Everyone won't do anything to you, but if you go out on your own, it'll be a different story." Butterball and Kant said cautiously, "That is to say, after you go out, those who were originally restraining each other may all deal with you. If you go out, you won't be able to come back. With your current strength, a 6 powers realm spirit caster can easily kill you." Obviously, Kant also thought that Zichen was not afraid of Spicer because of some soul power treasure. But if he met a 6 powers realm spirit caster, he might not be able to do it. Zichen nodded and said, "What you said makes sense. Then give me some resources and I won't go out." "Kant, take him out." At this moment, Phoebe came. He looked at Zichen and sneered, "Since he doesn't know what's good for him, why do you care about him?" Zichen glanced at Phoebe. Other than him, Sanlari and the rest also came. Obviously, they had heard the news. Butterball looked at Phoebe and the rest, then looked at Zichen and nodded. "All right, if you really want to go out, I'll take you out." "Let's go," Zichen said directly. "Ah!" Kant was stunned. "Don't let's go. The stock is running out and I'm in a hurry." Zichen walked forward. Kant glanced at the rest and they all nodded coldly. Kant followed. Zichen wanted to go out. This news spread quickly and attracted the attention of many people. Then, many people followed him out of the city. This time, Chen will definitely die. Phoebe also came out. Looking at the people in his field of vision, he sneered. Sanlari and the rest nodded. With just a glance, they saw a few 6 Powers Realm Spirit Casters. A 6 Powers Realm Spirit Caster obviously did not come out to watch the show. Spicer, you came out too? Sanlari looked behind and Spicer also came out. Not only me, many people came out too. They all want to see what Chen's soul power treasure is. Spicer walked over. They looked into the distance and saw a few 6 Powers Realm lawbreakers. Are they going to attack too? Phoebe asked. Of course they won't attack Chen. But once Chen dies and the soul power treasure appears, it's hard to say. The reason why the 6 Powers Realm lawbreakers did not attack Chen was because Spicer had already attacked once but did not succeed. The others obviously did not want to attack again because once they failed, it would be very embarrassing. In Shattering Law City, the lawbreakers valued their reputation very much. This was also why Phoebe and the rest kept finding trouble with Chen. The reputation that was lost had to be recovered. Otherwise, it would always be a joke. Lawbreakers had taboos but spirit casters did not. Any of the 6 Powers Realm who went out could attack Chen. Butterball and Kant looked at the calm Chen and asked, "Aren't you afraid?" "Afraid of what?" Chen asked back. His voice was calm and there was no trace of nervousness. "I'm a little impressed by you." Kant sighed. "It's obvious that your life is in danger and you're still so calm. I just saw that there are at least 5-6 Powers Realm cultivators who came out. And this is just spirit casters, not spellbreakers. So what if there are many people?" Chen said indifferently, "Can we still join hands?" Kant pursed his lips. His meaning was obvious. "Is it worth it for others to attack someone like you?" I said, "I called you out to ask you to help me find the law-breaking beast. If you don't cooperate, I'll snatch it from you." Chen looked at Kant, who was looking around and warned him. "Don't worry, I know where it is. I'm just afraid that you can't beat it." At this moment, Kant did not dare to argue with Chen. Chen could lose his life at any time. There was no need to fall out with the other party now and be beaten up. Besides, he did not have Marshal Jingsha with him. Chen was in front and the rest were behind, maintaining a certain distance. No one came up. They were all tailing. Butterball and Kant really brought Chen to a place with law-breaking beasts. They saw 2 of them at a glance. "Do you need help?" Butterball asked. Chen said, "Watch carefully. See if they dare to come and cause trouble." Chen, who was speaking, walked straight ahead. When the 2 law-breaking beasts saw Chen, they immediately rushed towards him. The crowd in the distance stopped. This was Chen's first battle. 2 law-breaking beasts of the 5 strength realm were much stronger than spiritual casters of the same level. Only law-breaking beasts could fight one-on-one. This time, Chen was fighting 1 against 2. In the eyes of many, it was suspicious of him being arrogant. Some people even concluded that Chen was going to throw his life away. The 2 sides met. The law-breaking beasts pounced forward. Chen struck out with his palm. Buzz. The light in his palms intertwined as if there were rules appearing in front of him. A law-breaking beast of the 5 strength realm was immediately disintegrated. Chen took a step back, avoided the attack of the other, and then struck again. Buzz. It was the same attack that swept past the body of the second law-breaking beast. The 2 law-breaking beasts were disintegrated one after another. In an instant, the battle ended. Butterball and Kant were dumbfounded. Chapter 5078. I am really sorry. My mind is in a mess and I really can't figure it out. I will take another day off to sort out the storyline. Thunder Marshal, take another day off. Currently in progress, please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 5079. 2 law-breaking beasts were killed, leaving behind a total of 10 streams of pure energy. Chen stepped forward and kept the pure energy. Then, He turned around and looked at the stunned Butterball. Not bad. Let's go to the next place. Butterball regained his senses and immediately followed. His heart was filled with shock. Killing 2 law-breaking beasts in an instant, and using spiritual energy. Just this move alone was much stronger than other spiritual casters of the same level. Even compared to law-breaking beasts, he was not inferior. During this time, Butterball secretly looked behind him and realized that everyone was stunned. It's not easy to come out. It's best to find a place with more law-breaking beasts. Chen looked into the distance and did not notice the people behind him. It was as if they did not exist. You're really not afraid? Butterball and Kant asked unwillingly. There are so many of them in the 6 forces state. Each of them has the ability to tear you apart. They are eyeing you covetously and can kill you at any time. Chen looked at Kant and asked, why would the 6 forces state want to kill me? Kant subconsciously said, because you have a treasure. Chen laughed. So, they are after the treasure? Kant continued, of course, they won't be so direct. But they will create some trouble. For example, the 5 forces state will take the initiative to provoke you, just like last time. At this point, Kant immediately shut up. After all, it was not something to be proud of. Butterball finally said, there must be a reason for the 6 forces state to make a move. Chen still had a smile on his face. So, you think someone will dare to create some trouble? Butterball was stunned. Only then did he understand what Chen meant. According to Chen's previous methods, the 5 forces state would be courting death if they dared to come. He believed that no one would be so stupid. While they were talking, the 2 of them encountered another 5 forces realm lawbreaker beast. This time, there were 6 of them. Chen's expression changed, and he excitedly slapped Butterball. Caught off guard, Butterball was knocked to the ground. You did a good job, kid. Follow me from now on. Don't follow Phoebe and those idiots. They'll get you killed sooner or later. With that, Chen took out Lu Yaro's staff and ran forward. The people who followed behind all stared with wide eyes, feeling incredulous. These were 6 law-breaker beasts. Was he going to fight 1 against 6? Lu Yaro looked at his staff and armor and was infuriated. Chen was using his things to show off. Chen faced off against the law-breaking beasts and swept the staff in his hand. Everyone saw a flash of light as 3 law-breaking beasts were swept away. Then, Chen held the staff in his left hand and blocked a law-breaking beast. He struck out with his right hand, and light crisscrossed between his palms like the most ruthless rule in the world. It swept toward a law-breaking beast. The crisscrossed light swept through a law-breaking beast's body, and it disintegrated in the air. Chen was also attacked by the last law-breaking beast. The armor absorbed most of the power, and his body slid backward. With the staff in his hand on the ground, Chen steadied his body. He tapped his feet, and his body soared into the air. He raised the staff high and smashed again. A few law-breaking beasts in the air were knocked away. Chen landed on the ground, rolled, and avoided the pouncing attacks. He arrived in front of a law-breaking beast. The attack that made Butterball's heart tremble appeared again. He stood up again. He had never seen such a straight beam of light. It was crisscrossing, ruthless and terrifying. It was like the most ruthless rule in the world, and it made him feel cold. Where the light passed, the law-breaking beasts were disintegrated and fell to the ground. With the armor, he could fight against 6 at the same time. In the distance, the people who came were shocked. This kind of combat power had far surpassed many lawbreakers. There were also some people who glanced at Lu Yaro. Before Chen came, Lu Yaro was very famous. This was why he dared to trouble Chen that day. But at that time, Lu Yaro did not dare to say that he could fight against 6 at the same time. But Chen, who had Lu Yaro's armor, could. The difference in combat power between the 2 sides was obvious. Being stared at by some people, Lu Yaro's face was very ugly. At this moment, there was a cry of surprise. The battle in front had ended. Chen had obtained dozens of pure energy. This kind of harvest alone made many people envious. It should be known that one pure energy was equivalent to 100 ordinary energy. And the pure energy obtained from killing law-breaking beasts of the five forces state was even purer than the energy obtained from the Hall of Spiritual Spells. Because the latter was condensed, and this was formed naturally. By now, everyone had a better understanding of Zi-Chen's combat power. Those of the five forces state would not dare to trouble him. As for those of the six forces state, how to deal with them? There were many of them here, but if they wanted to fight, they would need a reason, right? Ogiust's face was very ugly. He did not expect things to be so tricky. But now, he was still confident that he could kill Zi-Chen. Because Zi-Chen's strength was limited to the five forces state. There was an insurmountable gap between him and the six forces state. Good harvest. Let's continue. Zi-Chen turned to look at Kant. Kant nodded and followed, but this time he kept a distance from Zi-Chen. He was a lawbreaker. How could he be manipulated by a spiritual spellcaster? Furthermore, he was sent sprawling on the ground with a single slap. It was simply too embarrassing. In Butterball's opinion, Zi-Chen's method had created a strong deterrent force. Perhaps this trip would be more daunting than dangerous. This guy. Phoebe was very angry. Zi-Chen's strength annoyed him. Everyone was frightened and did not dare to make a move. This made him even more irritable. But he did not dare to go up himself. He should have guessed this long ago. Looks like no one made the first move this time. Spicer gave such a conclusion. No one made a move. Are we going to let Zi-Chen grow to the six forces state with the treasure? Phoebe asked unwillingly. Although this is possible, the difference between the five forces and the six forces is like heaven and earth. It is very difficult to break through. Spicer said, perhaps, he will only be able to stay in the five forces state for the rest of his life and be the strongest five forces state. Yes, Spicer had already determined that Zi-Chen was the strongest existence in the five forces state. Sir, there should be no one making a move against Zi-Chen. Should we go back? In another direction of the crowd, Marcus and Albert had also followed. Albert said indifferently, let's wait and see. Perhaps things are not that simple. Ogiust did not want to endure any longer. No matter what, he had to kill Zi-Chen. Thus, he looked at Lu Yarrow. You go. Lu Yarrow's expression suddenly changed. What? You go and give me a reason to make a move. Ogiust said again. He is so strong. If I go up, I will die. Lu Yarrow's expression was very ugly. Ogiust looked at him. You don't want your weapon and armor? Lu Yarrow's expression changed several times. That's good. You have to make a move quickly. With that, Lu Yarrow rushed forward and shouted, Zi-Chen, you bandit. Give me back my things. Chapter 5080. Lu Yarrow reprimanded Zi-Chen loudly, implying that Zi-Chen had stolen something from him. After witnessing Zi-Chen's strength, he was smart enough not to get too close. Instead, he stood at a distance and shouted. Zi-Chen glanced at Lu Yarrow with pity in his eyes. You're the first one to be so enthusiastic about courting death. Lu Yarrow's expression changed drastically, and he wanted to retreat. From the corner of his eyes, he saw a light chasing after him. He had a bad feeling and immediately shouted, Ogiust, save me. The others saw all this with indifferent expressions. Everyone knew what Ogiust was going to do. As for Lu Yarrow, it would depend on his luck whether he could survive or not. The long staff whistled. Lu Yarrow rolled on the ground. He was in a very sorry state, but he barely dodged Zi-Chen's attack. Then, using both hands and feet, he leaped forward like a magical beast. Boom! The ground where he was rolling shook and cracked, sending dust and dirt flying. Zi-Chen's eyes were cold. He would not show mercy to someone who was courting death. Swoosh! Lu Yarrow used both hands and feet. After landing, he exerted force again and leaped forward. Zi-Chen followed up with another attack, but it missed again. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes. At this moment, Lu Yarrow's survival instinct completely broke out. It was an eye-opener for everyone. 3 attacks in a row, all of which missed. Ogiust! Lu Yarrow shouted. Because of the threat of death, his voice cracked. No one laughed at him. Instead, they admired him. Previously, they had seen Zi Chen fighting 1 against 6. In a one-on-one situation, Lu Yaro could make Zi Chen miss 3 times in a row. It was not easy. Boom. Lu Yaro blocked 3 attacks, but in the end, he could not block the 4th one. Accompanied by a huge tremor, Lu Yaro was sent flying. After landing and rolling, he took advantage of the momentum and continued to roll. At this moment, he did not feel embarrassed at all. Swoosh. Ogiast brushed past him. Lu Yaro flipped over and got up. He kept retreating until he was in the crowd. At this moment, his breath was very weak. You must succeed. Lu Yaro looked at Ogiast's back. In order to get back his weapon and armor, he had really risked his life. Die. Ogiast rushed towards Zi Chen and punched him. Above his fist, a dazzling light shone, releasing a powerful aura. In Zi Chen's hand, the long staff blocked the attack. The long staff also glowed. The two of them looked at each other from a distance, their eyes cold. Boom. Ogiast's fist smashed onto the long staff. The powerful shockwave caused Zi Chen's body to slide backwards. Traces were plowed on the ground, and smoke and dust rose into the air. Die. Ogiast tapped his foot, and his figure soared into the air. He could have flown, but at this moment, he chose to descend in an arc buzz. Above the fist, a strong light flashed again. This time, there was the light of rules lingering. Even though they were far away, everyone could still feel the intense pressure coming from the fist. This was the real body power that only 6 forces state possessed. It was a power that far surpassed 5 forces state. The lawbreakers in the distance could feel it more clearly. The reason why they could suppress spiritual casters was because of their own soul power. This was also the shortcoming of spiritual casters. However, lawbreakers also had a shortcoming, which was that their bodies were too weak. Once they were too close to spiritual casters during a battle, they would be seriously injured and even die if they were hit by the real body power. Therefore, the high and mighty lawbreakers were actually apprehensive of spiritual casters. Especially Zi Chen, who could ignore soul power, they were even more fearful. Ogiast's fist, which had used the real body power, whizzed down. Zi Chen used all his strength to block it. Buzz. On the long staff, a light shone. However, in the next moment, the long staff flew out of his hand. Zi Chen was also pushed back by the huge force. My weapon. Lu Yaro, who was recovering with pure energy, saw this and his eyes lit up. This was obviously a good start. The others were slightly surprised. They were not surprised by Ogiast's strength, but by Zi Chen's tenacity. Again, Ogiast continued forward. He did not use a weapon, only his fist, but it was wrapped in the real body power. Buzz. As the fist struck out, a surge of energy surged. Zi Chen once again had that strange feeling. His body seemed to have become a thin piece of paper that could be torn apart at any time, even with the protection of the armor. This was the difference between real and fake. Under the rules, it was clearly displayed. The others watched indifferently. This was the most fundamental difference between the two sides. There were also some people whose expressions changed. If nothing unexpected happened, Zi Chen would die soon. When the soul power treasure appeared, it would be time for them to make a move. Humph. Lu Yaro snorted. The armor was about to return. At this moment, there was a cry of surprise. Ogiast's attack did not land but was blocked by an object. It was the bone staff that came to this world with Zi Chen. On the bone staff, there was a light that shone and blocked the real body power of the punch. Bang! There was a strong shock and both of them retreated. Unexpectedly, neither of them had the upper hand. Zi Chen was slightly startled. He looked at the bone staff in his hand. Just a moment ago, the bone staff seemed to have activated a different kind of power. Real body power. How do you have real body power? Ogiast was shocked. To be able to block real body power, it was naturally another kind of real body power. But the opponent was only in the 5 strength realm. Real body power? Zi Chen heard and his eyes lit up. Let's try again. He used all his strength to activate the bone staff and smashed it towards Ogiast's head. Ogiast shouted and threw another powerful punch. There was another roar and a strong shock. Both of them retreated again. Once again, they were evenly matched. And this time, Zi Chen felt it very clearly. After his spiritual power entered the bone staff, there was a change. It was as if it was increased by a level. Next, Zi Chen launched the fiercest attack towards Ogiast in front of everyone's dumbfounded expressions. A 5-strength realm was fighting against a 6-strength realm. The shock brought by this was too great. In the distance, amidst the exclamations, someone finally saw the reason. It's that weird bone weapon. Through it, the attack can be increased by a level. This caused an uproar. The reason was very simple. Zi Chen, who was holding the bone staff, had the fighting power of a 6-strength realm. At this moment, everyone was moved. Did that mean that Zi Chen was now equivalent to a 6-strength realm spiritual caster? And a 6-strength realm spiritual caster who was not afraid of lawbreakers? For a moment, many lawbreakers' faces turned ugly. Because once the two sides started fighting, Zi Chen would withstand the soul power attack and get close to them. Then, what awaited them would be danger. At this moment, they felt the threat of Zi Chen and their eyes turned cold. Chapter 5081. The expressions of the 6 Forces realm cultivators, who were just watching the show, gradually changed. The battle prowess Zi Chen displayed had completely exceeded their expectations. It seemed that he was only a 5 Forces realm cultivator, but his current battle prowess was equivalent to a 6 Forces realm cultivator. Zi Chen's spiritual power was forcibly increased by a level by the bone rod, and he was evenly matched with Ogiast. How can this be? Phoebe was shocked. How can there be such a strange weapon in this world? That's not a weapon, it's a bone rod. Spicer's eyes flashed, and he said in a low voice, the bones of law-breaking beasts above the 6 Forces realm can be used to refine weapons. But the bone rod in his hand doesn't seem to have been refined, and yet it has such power. It must have been very powerful when it was alive. Phoebe gritted his teeth and said angrily, this damn guy, his luck is really good. He got so many treasures. Compared to the bone rod's current power, the rod that was sent flying was nothing. Ogiast started to get impatient after attacking for a long time without success. At this moment, Zi Chen's mind moved, and the slaughter spirit appeared. Like a ray of light, it pierced towards Ogiast's forehead. Ogiast was shocked and subconsciously raised his hand to block. At this moment, the bone rod smashed downwards with a tyrannical force and landed on his body. Bang! Ogiast was sent flying until he was 10 feet away, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. His face gradually darkened, and his eyes were surging with cold, killing intent. His mouth opened slightly, as if he wanted to say something. Swoosh! Zi Chen held the bone rod in his hand, and under the exclamations, he chose to take the initiative to attack. So what if he was a 6 Forces realm cultivator? He was not afraid at all. This is too barbaric. Kant, who had already retreated, looked in front of him in shock. Zi Chen's appearance broke his understanding of common sense. Right now, he, a 5 Forces realm cultivator, actually dared to take the initiative to attack a 6 Forces realm cultivator. What kind of courage did this require? Zi Chen used facts to tell Kant that courage was not required, just strength was enough. Bang! 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 Powerful energy vibrated in front of him, stirring up countless ripples. Under everybody's shocked gazes, Ogiast started to retreat. In the face of Zi Chen's strong attacks, he gradually lost ground. This scene caused many people's expressions to change. In the eyes of many spellbreakers, Zi Chen had become even more of a threat. Some people glanced around as if they were communicating with their eyes. "Milord." Marcus's eyes were filled with shock. Ape Bert was also very surprised. Clearly, he did not expect that the young man who needed his protection back then would grow to such a level. At this moment, Zi Chen was undoubtedly the center of attention. Everyone was shocked. It also made the spellbreakers fearful. Ape Bert's eyes were burning. Boom! With the powerful vibration, Ogiast was beaten back again. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Ogiast said coldly, "Why did you stop?" After glancing at Ogiast, Zi Chen didn't say anything. After that, he looked at Kant and said, "Let's go to the next place." Kant was stunned when he heard this, and he was slightly puzzled. The battle wasn't over yet, So why were they leaving? Want to leave? Do you think it's possible? Ogiust's voice was cold. There was also some commotion in the crowd. Zichen said, if you fight with your life on the line, I believe that the one who dies will definitely be you. I don't think you have the guts to fight with your life on the line, right? Ogiust's expression was ugly as he said disdainfully, with just you? Are you worthy of fighting with your life on the line? I can also exhaust you to death. If you don't believe me, you can try. Of course, Zichen would not try because it was very disadvantageous to him, even if he could kill Ogiust. Zichen walked to the side and picked up the long staff that was sent flying. Compared to the bone staff, this long staff only had toughness left. Being underestimated by Zichen, Ogiust's expression became more and more unsightly. However, seeing that the other party was about to leave, he did not go forward to entangle. Of course, he did not believe that a mere 5 strength realm could kill him. However, if the two of them were injured while fighting with their lives on the line, then the gains would not make up for the losses. Wait. At this moment, a person stood up. It was Spike. As he walked out, several people followed. These were all spell breakers. Ogiust was stunned at first, but he quickly reacted. These people felt threatened and planned to eliminate Zichen here. Are they going to join forces? Ogiust was somewhat expectant. He did not mind at all if everyone joined forces to kill Zichen. Zichen stopped and looked at these people who came with ill intentions. Kant retreated to the side. He looked at Zichen with pity in his eyes. Several 6 strength realm spellbreakers had come. Even if Zichen had a treasure, he felt that it was impossible for him to survive. What do you mean by this? Are you planning to join forces? A voice suddenly sounded from the crowd. 2 spirit spell breakers walked over. The leader was Albert, and beside him was Marcus, who braced himself. Compared to other 6 strength realm spellbreakers, he, a 5 strength realm spellbreaker, did not even have the right to speak. Spike looked at Albert and said with a frown, "What do you mean?" Apebert smiled faintly and said, "Nothing. I just want to ask, why are you stopping my people?" "Your people?" A cold glint flashed in Spike's eyes. "Are you sure?" Albert cupped his fists in the direction of Broken Law City and said, "Lord Eden personally assigned them. What do you think?" A hint of anger appeared on Spike's face. "You're using Eden to suppress me? I wouldn't dare. I'm just stating the truth." Albert said, "Zichen went out this time to clean up the spellbreakers and complete the mission. I didn't see how he offended you." Zichen was surprised by Albert's appearance. After all, from what he knew from Marcus, this lord was famous for protecting himself. Now, it was rare to see someone who did not hesitate to offend a few spellbreakers to speak up. Could it be that Lord Eden? After all, there were big shots above Albert. "You want to protect him?" Spike asked again. The others also had cold eyes. "No, I'm just learning the truth." Albert said, "If something goes wrong and Lord Eden asks about it, I can explain it, right?" Spicer glanced at Abbott, then glanced at Zichen, and a meaningful smile flashed across his face. He turned around and left. The other spellbreakers did not say anything and followed him. Albert was stunned. He did not expect these people to be so easy to talk to. So, he looked at Zichen and said, "Zichen, your mission is complete. You can go back." Zichen cupped his fists and said, "Lord, I still want to walk around." This time, he only obtained a few dozen streams of pure power. According to his refining speed, they would be gone soon. Instead of coming out again, it was better to stay here and go back when he had enough. After all, no one should come to trouble him now. "Go back," Albert said again. Chapter 5082. After Spicer and the others left, the others also left. They didn't continue to cause trouble for Zichen. Naturally, they were somewhat unwilling to leave. However, they gave up just like that. Of course, the main reason was that the 6th strength state chose to give up. The others didn't have the ability to pursue the matter. Zichen returned with Apebert. On the way back, he greeted Butterball and Kant. They clearly despised him, but they didn't dare to do anything. Under the disdainful gazes of their friends, they pretended not to see him. Marcus was very excited. The 5 strength state was comparable to the 6 strength state. Zichen had created another miracle. After returning to the city, Zichen didn't go back immediately. Instead, he followed Ape Bert back to his residence. After returning to his residence, Ape Bert waved his hand and motioned for Marcus to wait outside. He and Zichen clearly had something to talk about. Marcus closed the door and left. Ape Bert smiled and said, "Sit." Zichen shook his head. "What orders do you have for me, sir?" Ape Bert said, "Of course not. Your current combat strength is comparable to the 6 strength state. I'm very surprised to hear that. This means that you and I are on equal footing." Zichen said, "You flatter me, sir. I'm just relying on external objects. It's not true ability. Zichen, don't belittle yourself. If you're capable, then you're capable." Ape Bert changed the topic and said, "However, ability isn't the only way to survive in Dharma Breaker City. Take me for example. I've been in the 6 strength state for many years and my combat strength isn't bad, but what can I do? I have Lord Eden above me. I don't dare to disobey him at all." Zichen nodded. "Just like before, those Dharma breakers were fearless, but when I mentioned Lord Eden's name, you see, everyone was scared and retreated." Ape Bert smiled and said, "So, in this place, although ability is important, power and relationships can't be ignored." "You're right, sir." Zichen immediately cupped his fists and said, "Zichen has learned something. I'll remember it." Ape Bert continued, "Last time I went to see Lord Eden, I discovered that he has a fondness for some strange things." Zichen remained silent. "Sometimes, big shots are like this. Their tempers are unpredictable. They like one thing today and another tomorrow. Of course, other than liking, it was also the same for people. Sometimes, if it felt that you were not bad, it would naturally protect you and even reward you with many resources, allowing you to reach an unimaginable realm. But sometimes, if you don't like them, then they can only be cast aside. It's hard to say whether they'll live or die." Zichen lowered his head and remained silent. But at this moment, he recalled Spicer's meaningful expression when he left. Could it be that the other party had already guessed it? Living here, it's not a big deal to lose some combat power. As long as he had the protection of his master, there would be no danger to his life. But without Milord's protection, even if they have a body full of battle strength, they will still be in a precarious situation. Looking at Zichen, who was still silent, Ape Bert smiled and said, "I'm just saying casually. Just treat it as a casual chat. Zichen, don't think too much. Alright, you can go back first. By the way, call Marcus over. I have something to tell him." Zichen went out, and Marcus walked in. Zichen didn't stay in this mansion. He walked straight out of the mansion and waited for Marcus at the door. At this moment, he really couldn't calm down. None of them were good people. Everyone had their own agenda and was selfish. A moment later, Marcus walked out. Zichen saw that his expression wasn't too good, but he didn't ask much. The two of them walked towards the residence. When they were about to reach the residence, Marcus finally couldn't help but ask, "What did Milord say to you?" "Nothing." Zichen naturally understood what Ape Bert meant, but he pretended not to know. In this place, was it useless to have strong combat power? Was it useful to rely on Milord? What a joke. If that was really the case, he would have been dead long ago. Marcus said, "Milord said that in order to prevent similar dangers from happening again, you shouldn't go out. Stay in the city." "All right." Zichen nodded. "I'm very surprised that Milord was willing to help this time." Marcus smiled and said, "It seems that Milord really treats you as one of his own. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so considerate of you." Zichen nodded and didn't explain. After returning to his residence, Zichen sat cross-legged. He didn't refine the energy. This time, he only obtained 40 streams of pure energy. Before he was sure of Ape Bert's true intentions, he had to use the energy sparingly. The first day was peaceful, and no one came to cause trouble. In Pofa City, discussions about Zichen had already spread like wildfire. The next day, Zichen walked out of his room and stood outside the door to stretch. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed that someone was staring in his direction. Chen decided to walk around, and he attracted a lot of attention along the way. He found Kant again, and when the latter saw him, it was as if he had eaten a rat. "Why are you here again?" "I'm here to see you." Chen's answer made Kant curl his lips. "I'm telling you, don't even think about it this time. No one will take you out again. No one will take you out." Chen looked at Kant. "What do you know?" Kant shook his head. "I don't know, but if you want to go out, it's obviously impossible." Seeing Chen frown slightly, Butterball and Kant didn't know why, but they felt some compassion in their hearts. They suddenly said, "Let me give you a piece of advice. Save what you can." Chen's expression changed slightly. He wasn't stupid and understood Kant's true intentions. "Thanks." Seeing Butterball's determined expression, Chen turned and left. This time, he went straight out of the city. Butterball and Kant saw this and their expressions changed, but they didn't say anything. Halfway through, 2 4-strength realm spirit casters appeared and stopped Chen. They indifferently told him not to go out. This was the rule. In Pofa City, spirit casters had to follow many rules, but spellbreakers had it slightly better. Chen understood Apebert's intentions. He didn't say anything and went to the Hall of Spirit Spells. With Chen's arrival, many people looked at him strangely. Then, they saw Chen take out 2 strands of pure energy and exchange them for 200 strands of ordinary energy. All this time, they had only seen people exchanging pure energy, but they had never seen anyone exchanging pure energy for magic power. This attracted a lot of attention. Chen took these strands of energy and went back. He knew that he wouldn't be able to refine pure energy for a long time. These ordinary strands of energy could only sustain his basic livelihood. As for how long this situation would last, Chen wasn't sure. However, according to the rules, it wouldn't last more than a month. This was because he had to do a mission every month. Therefore, Chen had been waiting to see what Apebert's intentions were. A month later, Marcus came and gave Chen a mission. He was to bring a basket of crystals to the Hall of Spirit Spells. Chapter 5083. Chen was considered to have completed his mission by receiving 1 energy as a reward. Everything was within the rules. Marcus' heart was heavy as he watched Chen walk out of the Hall of Spiritual Spells. He would be a fool if he still did not realize what was going on. His Excellency did not do this to protect him. "Let's go back." Chen approached him and smiled. Marcus looked guilty and said, "It seems that I have harmed you." Chen was not afraid of the spellbreakers. He had completely suppressed them and caused them to suffer a great loss. He had brought honor to all the spiritual spellcasters. He did not expect that the problem would occur to his own people. The spiritual spellcasters who lived here never dared to go against the spellbreakers. Chen was the first. They could not fight against outsiders, but they could fight against each other internally. Just like now, His Excellency used the rules against Chen. Chen could not do anything about it. "This has nothing to do with you." Chen was on his way back. He had experienced this kind of thing too many times. He had understood human nature the moment he fell off the cliff. Many people seemed to have heard the news. They all had mocking smiles on their faces. Phoebe and the others also came. At this moment, they would not miss the opportunity to join in the fun. "Chen, I heard that you went out on a mission today. You must have gained a lot, right?" Phoebe walked up and smiled at him. Chen glanced at Phoebe and did not say anything. "You are a 5 forces realm expert and your battle power is comparable to a 6 forces realm expert. Even if we join forces, we can't beat you." Phoebe clicked his tongue and said, "I think, with your battle power, you would need at least 20 streams of pure energy to go out on a mission, right?" Someone next to her said, "Phoebe, you're thinking too little. This kind of great expert obtained 40 strands of pure energy the last time he went out. This time, he has a mission, so he'll at least get 50 strands of pure energy." "Wow, 50 streams of pure energy. We are also very envious. It would be great if there were 50 streams. But I just saw that there was only 1 stream of normal energy. It can't be." Ordinary energy was something that even a cultivator at the 4th stage of strength would disdain to take. "Great expert, You didn't take it, did you? The few of them were all smiling proudly. Chen glanced at them. Phoebe said, "What, you want to fight? Fighting is forbidden here. There are rules." Chen, who was in a bad mood, said coldly, "Don't mess with me. Otherwise, if I take things too hard one day and kill all of you, don't blame me for making a loss." "What do you mean? Even if you kill us, you will." Halfway through his words, Phoebe reacted and said angrily, "You dare to look down on us?" It was obvious that the deal Chen was talking about was exchanging his life for the lives of these people. However, they were all spellbreakers. Their lives were much more precious than Chen's. However, they did not force Chen to leave with Marcus. "You're already like this, and you're still pretending in front of us? What's the point?" Phoebe looked at Chen's back and spat fiercely, "Damn it, those cowards of spirit spellcasters don't dare to do anything to us, but they're quite good at dealing with their own people." Butterball and Kant said, "This time, it's quite ruthless. Chen might be trapped here until he dies." Then, he said with emotion, "What a pity that such a powerful existence has such a fate." Phoebe looked at Kant. "If you don't kill him like this, do you have other ways to kill him? I think you're out of your mind. You're actually feeling sorry for that guy." Kant said, "How can it not be a pity? He has 2 treasures on him. I don't know who will benefit from it. In that case, it's quite a pity." Phoebe said regretfully, "However, the higher-ups have already told us not to interfere. Then, we can only stay out of it." Almost everyone in Pofa City knew about Chen, and at the same time, they admired Ape's cleverness. During this month, Chen stayed in his room and barely refined the energy. He relied on his own cultivation to maintain the consumption. It was obviously unrealistic for Ape to want to trap him to death. However, his progress would be much slower. For the people here, the most worthless thing was probably time, so they had not reached the point of despair yet. The next month, another mission came. Chen was required to move some things. They were extremely heavy and consumed a lot of energy. After Chen finished, his energy was almost depleted. This time, he obtained 2 ordinary energies, which were obviously far less than the consumption. Chen took the energy and refined it as he walked. His strength recovered very slowly. Ape sat in his room and listened to his subordinate's report. He smiled faintly. "Everything will continue in 2 days." Here, time was the most worthless thing, but Ape did not want to wait for a long time. 2 days later, the same mission came again. This disrupted Chen's plan. If the reward was not enough, he would have to consume his own energy. After a long time, he would not be able to make ends meet. During this time, Chen took out 2 more pure energies and went to the Hall of Spiritual Spells to exchange them for ordinary energy. Then, the missions continued. The more effort, the less the reward. During this time, no one cared. If this continued, Chen's energy would eventually be depleted. On this day, Chen returned to his room, exhausted. Marcus was here. He had not been here for a long time. "Chen, you can't go on like this. You'd better." At this point, the rest of the words couldn't be said. Chen said, "I can still live with the things. If I hand them over, who do you think can protect me?" "Ape." After Marcus left, he secretly left behind 10 streaks of pure energy. Chen put away the pure energies and began to recover. During this time, he did not consume any energy. After one night, all his energy was recovered. Chen, who was not on a mission today, took the initiative to walk out of his room. He held Lu Yaro's staff in his hand. It was obviously a good item of high quality. Chen planned to sell it. Along the way, he saw Lu Yaro and was ridiculed. During this time, many people coveted the weapon, but no one was willing to buy it. So, Chen went to the Hall of Spiritual Spells. Here, one could trade freely and buy some weapons. However, when Chen approached him with a long staff, the other party actually refused. It was normal to exchange for energy. Everyone had the right to do so. But there was no mandatory requirement to exchange for weapons. So, Chen failed and walked out. He knew he was being targeted, but there was nothing he could do. So, he went to find Kant. Kant was very surprised when he heard Zi Chen's intention. Are you crazy? I'm a spell breaker. This thing is useless to me. Zi Chen turned and left. Watching Zi Chen leave, looking at his lonely back. Maybe he came here because he had no other choice. For some reason, he felt a little ashamed. He immediately shouted, "Wait, I want this thing." He immediately ran forward and took out the pure spellbreaker power. This was a power that only spellbreakers could use. Spiritual spellbreakers could not use it, but it could be exchanged. He took out 100 of them. Here, I only have this much now. If you're not in a hurry, I'll go back and find you some more. Kant handed the energy to Zi Chen. Zi Chen took it, then looked deeply at Butterball and turned to leave. He went to the Hall of Spiritual Spells and directly exchanged for spiritual power. 1-for-1 exchange. This was within the rules. After that, Zi Chen took the energy and went straight out of the city. Chapter 5084. If he continued to stay here, sooner or later, Zi Chen would be exhausted to death by the so-called rules. Leaving was the only way. Of course, since he was here, he couldn't just leave casually. Just like how Zi Chen couldn't go out of the city to hunt law-breaking beasts, there were rules too. But now, Zi Chen didn't want to follow the rules anymore. Why didn't he go out of the city, but back to where he came from? Because Zi Chen wasn't familiar with this place. Once he left, he would definitely be hunted down. Zi Chen wasn't prepared to deal with so many powerhouses here. So, he wanted to leave the city and go back to where he came from. At least, he had the home advantage and was familiar with the environment. When Phoebe and the others heard the news and rushed over, Zi Chen had already finished exchanging energy at the Hall of Spiritual Spells. This time, he didn't exchange for normal energy, but spiritual energy. Phoebe looked at the long rod in Kant's hand and said, "Are you stupid? You can't use this stupid thing. Why do you want to trade with him?" Butterball opened his mouth, but he didn't know how to respond. "In this place, no one will trade with him, except for you, you idiot." Phoebe said angrily, "Sometimes, I wonder if you're really an idiot. If you don't exchange energy with him, he'll die here sooner or later. If you give him energy, he'll live for a long time." The others also scolded Butterball. Butterball lowered his head. He was in the wrong this time, but he didn't argue. Just then, a lawbreaker suddenly came from afar. When he was still some distance away, he shouted, "Come with me, Zi Chen seems to want to leave the city." "Leave the city?" Phoebe's expression changed as she said, "How dare he? How dare he ignore the rules? Does he think he's a lawbreaker?" Sanglari was confused. That shouldn't be. He got so much energy from Kant this time. It's enough for him to survive for a long time. Why does he want to leave the city? That person said excitedly, "Not this city, but that outside the city, where he came from. He actually wants to leave this place." Everyone was shocked when they heard this. This guy is quite bold. Phoebe's eyes flashed, and then he patted Kant hard and praised, "Good boy, you are not stupid, it seems that you are really smart." Everyone else was stunned. Even Kant didn't understand Phoebe's sudden change in attitude. "Brat, you're really extraordinary." "Indeed, I didn't expect this either." Phoebe said, "Only by giving Zi Chen enough energy will he have the guts to leave and fight with us. If he didn't exchange for it, then he, who had no energy left, could only stay here and wait for death. But it's different now. With energy, this kid's guts have grown. Let's go, let's go." Phoebe said excitedly, "Once Zi Chen leaves this time, he will definitely be hunted down. This time, he will definitely die. Just wait and see. The Six Powers Realm cultivators will no longer have to worry about us." Sanlali and the rest came to their senses and immediately followed behind. Butterball and Kant followed at the back. At this moment, he muttered, "Could it be that I have harmed him?" He recalled Zi Chen's expression. If he had rejected Zi Chen, would he have stayed in the city obediently and not risked his life? Unfortunately, there were no IFS. Now that things had come to this, he could only follow. As they followed, they saw Zi Chen heading out of the city. Along the way, there were quite a few people looking in all directions. But no one stopped him. They knew very well that Zi Chen was going against the rules of Pofa City. In Pofa City, There had never been a case of a spiritual caster breaking the rules. Zi Chen would be the first. Zi Chen's expression was calm. He wore Lu Yao's armor and walked out of the city. Marcus appeared in the crowd. Looking at Zi Chen leaving alone, he felt ashamed. If he had known this would happen, he would not have brought Zi Chen to Pofa City. But now, once he left, he would become the enemy of the entire Pofa City. At that time, the Pofa breakers and spiritual casters would not let him go. No matter how strong he was, how could he fight against so many experts? Zi Chen, don't be rash. Marcus immediately shouted when he thought of the situation Zi Chen was going to face. He shuddered in fear. Zi Chen did not turn around, as if he did not hear Marcus' voice. The others looked at Marcus as if they were looking at a monster. It was as if they were saying, "No one is stopping you, so why are you talking so much? If you leave now, you won't be able to turn back." Marcus clenched his teeth and said, "At that time, you will become the enemy of the whole world." Becoming the enemy of the whole world might be a bit heavy, but it was definitely true. Once he left the city, he would have no friends. Although he did not have any friends now, he did not have so many enemies either. Marcus seemed to want to say something, but at this moment, Ape Bert's voice sounded. "Marcus, you're talking too much. He doesn't even care about you. Why do you have to be so nice to him?" Ape Bert walked over from afar. Moreover, Ape Bert's subordinates, never meddle in other people's business. Everyone knows this. "Yes, I understand." Marcus quickly bowed. The others looked at Ape Bert, and many people's expressions changed. This once inconspicuous existence had gradually become famous recently. Zi Chen, whom even a Six Forces realm spellbreaker could not do anything to, had actually been defeated by him, and had been completely subdued by him. It could be said that Zi Chen was able to reach this point because Ape Bert used all his strength to suppress him. Zi Chen, who was walking in front, suddenly stopped when he heard this voice. As he stopped, everyone stopped as well. Zi Chen had not left yet, so according to the rules, no one could attack him. Now, both sides were not enemies yet. Zi Chen looked at Ape Bert and said coldly, "I hope to see you again outside the city. If you have the ability, I don't mind giving you all the supreme treasures on me." Then, Zi Chen laughed mockingly. "Of course, the premise is that you have the guts. It's not a big deal to play tricks. You have to have the ability." Ape Bert said, "Zi Chen, what do you mean by this? Are you dissatisfied with the mission I gave you? Then we can try to adjust it. Don't break the rules of Dharma Breaker City. Because once you break the rules, no one will protect you anymore. Protection. Your hypocrisy is disgusting. Besides, you have the guts to do it but don't have the guts to admit it. I really look down on you." Zi Chen turned around and continued to walk out of the city. Ape Bert looked at Zi Chen coldly. When they were about to reach the outside of the city, two people appeared. They were the guards in charge of this place. After they appeared, they warned Zi Chen not to break the rules. While talking, the two of them looked at him mockingly. It was obvious that it was just a routine thing. In fact, they were looking forward to Zi Chen's departure. Zi Chen did not disappoint them. He directly took out the token. Buzz. Zi Chen did not hesitate and directly activated the token. The next moment, Zi Chen disappeared. Exclamations sounded around because Zi Chen had broken the rules and would become a great enemy of Dharma Breaker City. Kill. Chapter 5085. There was an uproar in Pofa City. Although they had guessed that Zi Chen was going to break the rules and leave, it was another matter to see it with their own eyes. He was the first spirit caster in history to break the rules. In everyone's words, he was very daring. Shouts rang out, and some people immediately chased after him. Of course, these people were mainly in the 5-strength state. Most of them were there to join in the fun. If there was a chance to take advantage, they would not let it go. The 6-strength state was very calm because they also needed to follow some rules, so they needed to wait for a while. At the very least, they needed to get orders from their superiors. He really went out. Let's go too. Phoebe's eyes were shining with excitement. The others were nodding. Zi Chen was already an enemy of the world. It would be difficult for him to turn the situation around. Everyone followed him out and could see the scene of a drowning dog being beaten. They believed that this time, there would not be a miracle. Zichen would definitely die. I have to wait. At this moment, Butterball and Kant suddenly spoke. Wait for what? Phoebe did not understand. I have to find a piece of martial crystal, just in case. As soon as Butterball and Kant finished speaking, their heads were hit hard. Phoebe angrily rebuked, Are you stupid? Zichen can't even take care of himself, and he dares to rob us? Butterball covered his head. What if? There is no what if. This time, he will definitely die. Phoebe was very confident. He will definitely die. Butterball said again, but what if we are too close and accidentally fall into his hands? This, Phoebe was startled. Thinking about it, it seemed to be a possibility. He hesitated slightly and said, Can't we just stay away from him? However, when he said this, he was obviously not confident. After all, he had suffered many losses in Zichen's hands. If that guy did not see anything, he would really kill them. It was better to be safe than sorry. What if they bumped into him? After hesitating, Phoebe also felt that they should find a piece of martial crystal and bring it with them. At least it could be used for self-defense. And so, they all went back. Those 6 Forces Realm Spirit Mags had all left because they needed to wait for orders from above. However, many of those 5 Forces Realm Spirit Mags who had left were spies. As for the 6 Forces Realm Spellbreakers, they seemed to know that they could not kill Zichen. Since they had the authority, they were not in a hurry to chase after him. Zichen reached the outskirts of the city and ran towards the camp where he was previously. Before leaving, there were still some things that needed to be done. When he saw Miao Pengfei and Hu Zheng, he didn't have time to explain. He only told them that no matter what happened, they had to insist that they weren't close. The two of them were dumbfounded as they watched Zichen leave. Not long after, the sounds of battle could be heard. Those 5 Strengths Realm cultivators chased after them and asked if they had seen Zichen. The people outside the city had never seen such a scene before. They were all scared silly. No one dared to hide anything and immediately pointed in the direction Zichen had escaped. Ape Bert didn't come out, but Marcus followed him out. He knew Miao Pengfei, but he didn't say much. Through the directions that others had given to Zichen, he seemed to have vaguely guessed where Zichen was going. Not good, there, his expression changed as he sensed that something was wrong. However, he didn't warn everyone. At this point, it seemed that Zichen had nowhere to go. He followed behind. It could be expected that the sky would be pierced through next. And the cause of all this was not the doing of the lawless spellbreakers, but a spirit mage who had followed the rules for many years. When he thought of Lord Ape Bert, Marcus felt an indescribable discomfort. Why had Lord become like this? Zichen, stop. Don't run if you have the ability, kid, there are so many people chasing you. Where can you run to? Quickly surrender. Under the guidance of the people who chased out, they finally found Zichen's traces. Immediately, some people shouted loudly. Zichen lowered his head and hurried on, ignoring the shouts of the crowd. Seeing that Zichen ignored them, the crowd shouted even more vigorously. One person shouted a lot, which made Zichen a little irritated. Therefore, Zichen stopped, turned around, and looked at the crowd that was rushing over. Many of them were in the 5 strength state. Almost all of them were in the 5 strength state. Kill. Zichen shouted and rushed towards the group alone. This made everyone's expressions change drastically. They didn't expect that just shouting a few words would anger the other party. However, when some people saw this, their eyes lit up and said, Everyone, this is a rare opportunity. If you don't seize it this time, you won't have another chance. It was obvious that everyone present was in the 5 strength state. Once they killed Zichen, they would obtain the supreme treasure by chance. However, if they waited until the 6 strength state came, it would be difficult for them to have such an opportunity again. Therefore, many people were tempted and shouted again, Everyone, let's work together to kill the enemy. Zichen approached. Wearing his armor, he took out his bone staff and hit it forward. Buzz. He fully activated the power of the bone staff and it flew forward. As the light fell, More than half of the bodies of 2 people in the 5 strength state who were enveloped by the light disappeared. Before they could be treated, their bodies disappeared. During this time, several attacks fell on Zichen's body, but they were blocked by his armor. Lu Yaro's armor had a good defense. Buzz. The second attack fell and 2 more people disappeared. This kind of scene of instant annihilation caused everyone to be endlessly terrified. Although the supreme treasure was important, their lives were more precious. Moreover, no one wanted to be the first to die. Therefore, after Zichen's 2 attacks, a strange scene appeared. When Zichen moved forward, the crowd began to retreat. Zichen had scared off a group of people by himself. Just like that, after taking the lives of 2 more people in the 5 strength state, Zichen turned and left. The crowd was stunned and did not dare to follow him immediately. This was because Zichen might turn back and come back. At that time, the person who was at the front would definitely die. Therefore, the crowd followed behind and kept a distance from Zichen. During this time, they did not dare to shout for fear of provoking Zichen again. Soon, night fell. Zichen did not stop and continued to move forward. The crowd was afraid of losing him, so they closed the distance between them. When Zichen walked past a high and low area, he went around to the side and attacked the crowd when they least expected it. The crowd immediately scattered like birds and beasts. This time, because it was too chaotic and Zichen caught them off guard, more than 10 people died. Zichen left again, leaving behind the others who were still in a state of shock. Everyone followed behind him cautiously. Only when the sun had risen did they relax. Therefore, for the next few days and nights, the crowd kept a certain distance from Zichen. "I know where he's going," sang Larry, who had followed up again, exclaimed when she saw the familiar path. Phoebe and the others looked at her. When they came out with the martial crystals, they heard that Zichen had turned back and killed people. This time, he was even more agile. They were immediately glad. "He's going to the mine with the killing crystals." Sang Larry was puzzled. But, is he going to use the killing crystals to deal with everyone? She could not understand because everyone present was in the 5 strength state and could completely block the attack of the killing intent. Zichen's move was obviously useless. Chapter 5086. Regarding this mineral vein, there was probably no one more familiar than Zichen. This was his turning point. If not for the fact that he had nowhere else to go, he wouldn't have come back. Because there was a hidden danger here. But now, he had nowhere to go. He could only come here to fight for a chance of survival. Even if there was no chance of survival, he had to drag more people down with him. As Zichen stopped, those 5 strength state cultivators also stopped. They didn't dare to get too close. Zichen looked at the crowd. Everyone was also looking at Zichen. Both sides just stared at each other. No one dared to make a move. Not even a single person dared to clamor. Next, they just had to wait. Wait for the 6th strength state to arrive. After all, this was a battle between them. Those in the 5 strength state would only die. In everyone's knowledge, Zichen already had 3 treasures on him. The soul power treasure, the bone staff treasure, and that strange light. The 6th strength state didn't disappoint Zichen. Soon, they arrived. The first one was the lawbreaker, Spicer. After he appeared, he didn't make a move. Instead, he stood in front. Phoebe and the others stood beside him, pointing at Zichen and whispering to each other. Spicer said, "Let's wait. I think the lawbreakers won't make a move first." He had already failed once. Naturally, he wouldn't embarrass himself again. So, if the lawbreakers wanted to get the treasures, they had to wait for the lawbreakers to kill Zichen first. Then, a chaotic battle would break out. The treasures were obtained by one's own ability. The lawbreakers had a lot of power. They could completely ignore the rules. So, they came quickly. Whether it was to fight for the treasures or to watch the show, more than 10 people came in the blink of an eye. The number was still increasing. After they arrived, they didn't make a move. They just watched from the front. Zichen wasn't in a hurry. He even sat down cross-legged. The sky gradually darkened. Zichen retreated and stopped at the entrance of the cave. He didn't go in. He looked ahead. The bonfire was rising. Everyone stayed in the distance. They were still pointing and mocking. However, they were very careful to suppress it. Early the next morning, a long whistle sounded. The lawbreakers had finally arrived. There were dozens of them, almost twice as many as the spellbreakers. Following their arrival, a commotion broke out in the crowd. If nothing unexpected happened, the battle should begin soon. Zi-Chen, I want you dead. There was no dialogue or discussion. There was not even any moral suppression, nor did he place himself on the side of absolute justice. Because it was completely unnecessary. It was also because this was outside the city and there were no rules. In a place where there was no need to abide by the rules, the law of the jungle prevailed. August attacked Zi-Chen. He was the one who initiated the battle. Zi-Chen held the bone stick in his hand, looking at August, who was dashing forward. A cold light shot out from his eyes. Roll over here. Let's have a good fight. Ever since he came here, he had been targeted for no reason, and it happened again and again. This time, he was undoubtedly the most miserable one. He had nowhere to go in the city, so he could only retreat. Therefore, Zi-Chen, who had a belly full of anger, also wanted to fight to his heart's content. Why was he always the one being bullied? Buzz. The bone stick emitted a light. After the enhancement, the bone stick had an ability that was not weak. Bang! A strong vibration caused August's body to retreat backward. Zi-Chen's feet tapped, and his body leaped high. He could not fly, so his body fell in an arc, smashing toward August's head. The other 6 Forces Realm Spirit Casters landed one after another, standing in another direction, facing the spellbreakers from afar. Boom! A strong force came from the front, forming a violent fluctuation. August's body retreated again. Go to hell! He roared, using the rule of true power. However, under the bone stick, the rule of true power was dissolved in an instant. Zi-Chen, who had the bone stick, was equivalent to a 6 Forces Realm Spirit Caster. Naturally, he was not afraid of the opponent. August's face was very ugly. He was not satisfied that he could not suppress Zi-Chen. Of course, Zi-Chen was also not satisfied. It was not his intention to fight to a draw with August. He held the bone stick tightly, his eyes cold. His heart was filled with endless anger. Dong. As if sensing the change in his mood, Zi-Chen's heart suddenly jumped, and a ripple spread out in his heart lake. Zi-Chen felt that the blood in his body suddenly flowed faster. His body was like a flame that was about to burn. His fighting spirit burst out. Dong. His heart was still beating, strong and powerful. Waves of ripples surged in his heart lake. Die. Zi-Chen stepped on the ground, and the ground under his feet immediately cracked. He once again attacked August. August said coldly, "It's useless. You can't do anything to me." Light circulated around his body. His hands blocked in front of him, and true power surged out from his arms. The bone stick in Zi-Chen's hand smashed down high. Along with the strong vibration, August's body flew backward, accompanied by the sound of bones breaking. His arms drooped down. Both of his arms had been broken. There was an uproar in the distance. Apparently, no one had thought that such a scene would happen. Previously, they were evenly matched. Why was there a gap now? Dong. Zi-Chen's heart was still beating vigorously. There was energy surging in his heart, turning into power. At this moment, Zi-Chen felt as if he had an inexhaustible supply of energy, as well as an inexhaustible supply of power. Forward, sweep. Infinite radiance sprinkled down, bringing along a dangerous aura. Boom. August coughed out blood and flew backward. He, who had a real body, was obviously injured. The battle between the two sides had changed from being evenly matched to gradually losing. In Zi-Chen's hand, the bone stick smashed down again and again. Every time, he used all of his strength. August coughed out blood again and again. His eyes had a touch of fear. He didn't know why Zi-Chen suddenly became strong, and he had the intention to retreat. So many people had come this time. He was just fighting the first battle. There was no need to lose his life here. Buzz. At this moment, the slaughter spirit appeared and went straight between the opponent's eyebrows. Puff. The slaughter spirit pierced through his head. August let out a loud cry and immediately retreated in a sorry state. The others were shocked. It was obvious that Chen, who was in the 5 strength state, had the absolute upper hand. If August didn't run, he would probably die. Phoebe and the others were extremely shocked. Fortunately, there were many people this time. If there were only 1 or 2, they would probably be scared away when they saw such a scene. This combat strength is too terrifying. August retreated. Chen did not chase after him. He held the bone stick in his hand and his gaze wandered among the crowd. Finally, it fell on Ape. "You, get over here and die." Chen's behavior was obviously a direct provocation. This made Ape's face become extremely gloomy. However, looking at August's miserable appearance, he didn't think that he had the absolute ability to kill Chen. Therefore, he said directly, "Everyone, let's join forces, kill him, and the treasure will be obtained by our own ability." Chapter 5087. Hubert sneered and walked out of the crowd. He looked at Chen with cold eyes. He no longer suppressed his desire to seize the treasure. There were no rules here, and he could kill indefinitely. Chen smiled mockingly at Hubert, then hooked his finger provocatively. "Come here if you have the ability. Get lost if you don't." Chen really looked down on Hubert. A guy who only knew how to play tricks was destined to have no future. Even if he died here today, Hubert would not be able to get his things. Of course, Chen was still very depressed that he had been trapped by such a person and had no way out. "H, little thing, do you really think I can't kill you?" No matter how shrewd Ape Bert was, he could not tolerate being humiliated by a 5-strength realm cultivator in front of so many people. "You're just an ant." He rushed directly at Chen, and the energy around him surged quickly. Chen gripped the bone staff in his hand tightly. The blood in his body was almost boiling, full of powerful energy. Dong. His heart was still beating vigorously, providing strength to his body. Boom. The first strike of the staff smashed down, and a large amount of light scattered. Hubert had just stepped forward when his body retreated. The power contained in Chen's attack surprised him. As far as he knew, the reason why August was defeated was only because he was weak. Chen tapped his foot, and the power in his body erupted. The ground exploded, and he used the recoil to soar into the air. He took the initiative to attack Hubert. It had to be said that it was all because of Hubert that he could reach this point. This person's combat strength was not very good, but he was very scheming. Therefore, he had to die. Hubert clenched his fists and stretched out his arms to block. With another explosion of energy, Hubert was sent flying. Then, Chen attacked again. The blood in his body circulated quickly. His heart provided a lot of energy for this battle. Puff. The staff fell for the 3rd time. Hubert coughed out blood and was sent flying. There was a hint of shock in his eyes. The crowd in the distance was also in an uproar. They were very surprised. However, no one made a move. Everyone just stood there and watched. Of course, it wasn't because they had to abide by some kind of rule of one-on-one combat. It was because if one of them died, there would be one less competitor for the treasure. Marcus was extremely shocked. He did not expect Chen to be so powerful and terrifying. Chen closed in step by step, and before he knew it, he was already far away from the cave. Beside him, August's face was gloomy. He had yet to recover from his injuries. Seeing this scene, he had some thoughts in his heart. In the next moment, he quickly rushed forward, intending to join forces with Ape Bert. Scram! Chen shouted loudly, smashing the bone stick in his hand towards August. Bang! August was sent flying again, spurting out another mouthful of blood. He had a feeling that Chen was stronger than before. Right now, Chen also had a feeling that he was becoming more and more powerful. He even had a strong illusion that he could break through today. He had advanced from the 5 forces state to the 6 forces state. Therefore, he gradually distanced himself from the cave entrance because he wanted to give it a try. When August went forward and was defeated, it showed a fact to everyone, and that was to join forces. There was no doubt that he had made a good start. However, the others did not seem to appreciate it and were still watching. In other words, they were waiting for Zi Chen to kill Ape Bert first before making a move. Zi Chen displayed a powerful killing power. Ape Bert was gradually losing. He repeatedly spurted out blood and shouted, "Everyone, I've already lured him over. Why don't you make a move?" There was some hidden meaning in his words. If everyone joined forces, they would naturally be able to kill Zi Chen. On the other hand, if they did not make a move at this moment, Zi Chen would definitely retreat, and Ape Bert would be able to survive. He wanted to snatch the treasure, but he was definitely not a desperado. In any case, he still had a certain status in Pofa City. There was no need for him to lose his life here for worldly possessions. Everyone present was a shrewd person, and could naturally tell what Ape Bert was trying to say. Therefore, they didn't wait any longer and walked forward. However, it was not very likely that everyone would swarm up and instantly kill Zi Chen. After all, they had not yet decided who to join forces with. After all, there were only a few treasures, while there were many people. As such, the 6 Powers Realm cultivators all walked out. At the same time, the others behind them could see that a decisive battle was about to break out, so they once again retreated and distanced themselves from the battlefield. However, in the next moment, only 2 people truly walked out and charged towards Zi Chen. The 3 of them joined forces. Ape Bert was injured and was mainly supporting. Boom! Powerful energy surged out. Facing 3 6 Powers Realm cultivators, Zi Chen did not fear them at all. Under the powerful shockwaves, Zi Chen's bone staff descended and knocked back one of the 6 Powers Realm cultivators. Wang! At that moment, another 6 Powers Realm cultivator attacked, and a strange energy fell on Zi Chen's body. Zi Chen's body once again became like a piece of paper and started to violently distort, as if he could disappear at any moment. At that moment, a surge of energy surged out from his heart and changed the situation, allowing him to completely recover. Therefore, Zi Chen turned around and smashed his bone staff to the side. Boom! The energy sputtered, and the 6 Powers Realm cultivator was also sent flying. Die! Zi Chen continued to charge towards Ape Bert. If he could kill one person today, he hoped that it would be Ape Bert. Ape Bert seemed to have noticed this, so he intentionally lured Zi Chen out. It had to be said that he dared to do this even though he was injured, which was undoubtedly equivalent to pulling chestnuts out of the fire. After being carelessly hit, Ape Bert had almost lost half of his life here. He did not dare to be careless anymore and immediately retreated into the distance. This time, he did not go forward no matter what. As for the previous 2 people, because they had lost Ape Bert's support, Zi Chen seized the opportunity to forcefully block an attack and injure one of them. While the other party retreated, he attacked the last person with all his strength. 1 against 3, and he was completely suppressing them. When everyone saw this scene, they were shocked and had strange expressions on their faces. It was obvious that Zi Chen's body was also strange. When he encountered the true force attack earlier, it was clearly about to disappear. Why did it block it again? Just as they were shocked, Zi Chen planned to retreat. Because the power of the heartbeat was weakening, which proved that his guess was wrong. This time, he would not break through because of this. The most likely possibility was that the anger from before had triggered the resonance of the heart. Therefore, sensing that something was wrong, Zi Chen turned around and ran. Seeing this, the others panicked and rushed forward. Unfortunately, they were already some distance away from Zi Chen. It was obviously too late to chase now. Under everyone's unwilling gaze, Zi Chen successfully ran into the mine. Chapter 5088. After feeling the lack of energy in his body, Zi Chen ran into the mine. Next, the battle would be held here. The battle to the death would also take place here. Including Ape Bert, the 3 injured 6 Powers Realm cultivators all had fear in their eyes. Zi Chen's combat power was too strong. Marcus's emotions fluctuated greatly. This was because Zi Chen's combat power was too strong. What was wrong with having such a person by his side? He could not understand Ape Bert's actions. The others watched this scene indifferently from the side, especially the spellbreakers. They could not help but mock them. They're too stupid. So many of them can't beat one person. Exactly. They're complete idiots. Zi Chen is really unlucky to be targeted by such idiots. Of course, they were not speaking up for Zi Chen, but to ridicule the spellbreakers. To them, perhaps the greatest joy in life was bullying spirit spellcasters. They did not fight back when beaten or scolded. Of course, Zi Chen was an exception. And this exception was about to be killed by them soon. I say, you're not afraid, are you? Phoebe sneered at the Six Powers Realm cultivators. A group of people can't beat one person. Are you really trash? One of the Six Powers Realm cultivators finally could not hold it in and said unhappily, then why don't I see you fight? Phoebe laughed and said, because we like to be open and aboveboard, unlike you who like to play dirty. Go and ask Zi Chen. Although we failed a few times, we were open and aboveboard. Unlike you, each and every one of you is incomparably shady. You deserve to be suppressed by us. Although the Six Powers Realm cultivator was angry, he did not dare to say anything. The others were the same. Everyone looked at the mine with an ugly expression. Spicer said, Zi Chen's situation is somewhat abnormal. His previous strength was more like some kind of strange spell, but there should be a time limit. His sudden entry into the mine should mean that the spell has disappeared. This speculation caused many voices to echo. Zi Chen's strength was too ridiculous. Even many of the 6 realms of strength could not fight against 3 of them at once. Go in and kill him, Apebert said, but that brat is very cunning. We can work in pairs. His words successfully attracted a wave of mockery. However, Apebert didn't care at all. He treated them as if they didn't exist. It was almost impossible for him to gain an advantage over these lawbreakers. These people seemed to be at odds with each other and fought for themselves. However, once they were provoked, they would unite. As for spirit spellcasters like them, they seemed to be united. However, when there were benefits and troubles, they would split up. The others also nodded. They could still accept the suggestion of 2 people in a group. Thus, everyone made their own arrangements and walked towards the mine. Watching them leave, Phoebe asked, how do you know about Zi Chen's situation? Spicer shook his head and said, I don't know either. I just guessed. Butterball Cant asked, what if I'm wrong? Spike laughed, then I'm not the one who died. When the other lawbreakers heard this, they all laughed out loud. The spirit spell casters looked at each other at the side. Perhaps only Zi Chen could deal with these arrogant fellows. Unfortunately, Zi Chen was going to die now. Zi Chen entered the mine and began to go deeper. He was really familiar with this place. He came to the place with the kill crystals. After arriving here, he looked around and found that there were many more kill crystals. Thus, he used the slaughter spirit to clear out an empty area. Until he found the large piece of kill crystal. He first cupped his fists at the kill crystal and apologized. If he could successfully avoid this calamity this time, he naturally wouldn't disturb the indulgence of these existences. However, if he couldn't, he had no other choice. This time, he might die. However, before he died, he had to drag some existences down with him so that they wouldn't have schemed against him in vain. Zi Chen walked forward and came to the edge of the cave entrance. He hid here. He believed that those 6 realms would definitely come. Holding the bone staff tightly, Zi Chen's eyes flashed with killing intent. Someone was coming. This kid is really good at hiding. Don't make any noise. Be careful. That kid is strange. 2 6 realms were walking towards him. Zi Chen held his breath and the bone staff in his hand also fell silent. Step by step, the other party was coming. Buzz. The moment the 2 of them appeared, Zi Chen's weapon smashed down fiercely with a large amount of light. The other party was shocked and immediately blocked. Bang! A strong shock wave. One of them was sent flying by Zi Chen. This kid is here. The other 6 Forces Realm cultivator let out a cry of surprise before charging towards Zi Chen. In Zi Chen's hand, the bone staff moved again and smashed down on the other party's head. This place wasn't big, but it was enough for Zi Chen to use the bone staff. Infinite light shone. In this dark cave, Zi Chen's eyes were shining, looking very strange. Bang! The second 6 realms was also sent flying. Then, the slaughter spirit moved and turned into a stream of light, completely catching the other party off guard. Puff! It pierced through a person's head and then quickly left. Die! Zichen quickly moved forward and didn't give the other party time to react. The bone staff smashed down again. The energy was stimulated by the bone staff, causing Zichen's attack to have the strength of a Six Realms cultivator. Boom! A strong shock wave and a terrifying aura circulated. The Six Realms cultivator was sent flying again. The slaughter spirit followed closely behind. This time, Zichen didn't hold back and used all kinds of methods. Puff! Another person was hit. A second hole appeared on the other party's head. Naturally, the injury was very serious. Zichen continued to move forward. It was still the same person. During this time, the other Six Realms cultivator attacked, but it was blocked by Zichen. After the third attack, the slaughter spirit attacked. The Six Realms cultivator screamed and then fell down dead. Because he already possessed true power, his death left behind a real corpse in this world. When the other Six Realms cultivator saw this, he immediately shouted, "You're courting death." Then, he used all his strength and looked like he was going to fight to the death with Zichen. However, when Zichen swung the bone staff, the other party used the force to retreat and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Zichen was stunned. He looked at the corpse on the ground and immediately chased after it. He was very familiar with this place. However, he neglected the strong desire to live of a Six Realms cultivator. As the other party ran, he shouted that Zichen was here. He didn't beg for mercy. Instead, he shouted to attract more people. When Zichen saw this, he could only retreat and walk in another direction. He hid and continued to wait for the ambush. The Six Realms cultivator ran out. His shout shocked everyone and caused an uproar. Chapter 5089. Hearing this news, everyone was in disbelief. How powerful were the Six Forces State cultivators? How could they be killed just like that? However, they quickly thought of the injured Six Forces State cultivators. If the two sides really wanted to fight one-on-one, Zichen could really kill them. Now, it was true. Ape Bert, who was a little worried that he would miss the opportunity to heal his injuries, couldn't help but change his expression when he heard the news. He secretly rejoiced. If he went in, that wolf cub would definitely kill him. Fortunately, it wasn't him. Hearing the commotion, the other Six Forces State cultivators also rushed out of the cave. During this time, Zichen seized the opportunity and killed another one. This time, everyone panicked. After walking out, they still had lingering fears. It was too dangerous. The three of us will work together. Ape Bert's injuries were almost completely healed. He said, "This way, if we work together, we can at least save our lives." Yes. They could save their lives. This was the current consensus of everyone. They didn't want to kill Zichen for the time being. And it was obviously impossible for them to leave just like that. This time, it was no longer just a matter of the supreme treasure. Once they retreated and Zichen broke through to the Six Forces State, what awaited them would definitely be endless trouble. As expected, they were mocked and ridiculed by the spellbreakers in the distance. They could only kill their way into the mine in groups of 3 with dark faces. This time, the effect was good. With the 3 of them working together, there were no more casualties. At the same time, they also dispelled the idea of being greedy. During this time, they repeatedly called out and called everyone over. Zichen began to be forced to flee. As long as everyone worked together, he had no chance of winning. He laughed self-deprecatingly. Perhaps this was the power of unity. Damn it. Zichen's face was gloomy as he walked into a mine. But soon, he reached the end. When he turned around again, there was already someone at the entrance of the cave. Zichen held the bone rod in his hand and smashed it forward. A large amount of light scattered, and the Six Forces State cultivator who had just appeared at the entrance of the cave flew out. However, before Zichen could rush forward, 2 more people stepped forward. Dazzling attacks appeared in his field of vision. Zichen took a few steps back and stared at the 2 of them. "Haha, it's done, it's finally done with this brat." One of the Six Forces realm cultivators laughed out loud because Zichen had nowhere to go. Rays of light flashed, and the six forces state cultivators walked out from behind. In the blink of an eye, there were 4 groups of 12 people. When they saw the desperate Zichen, a sinister smile immediately appeared on their faces. In such a small mine, they were confident that they could kill Zichen. Zichen looked at the crowd coldly. In the dark mine, his eyes were exceptionally bright. "Brat, you have nowhere to run now, right?" Hubert walked out of the darkness and stared coldly at Zichen. Zichen gripped the bone staff tightly. "Everyone, let's not wait any longer. Let's attack together." Apebert said, "If we let him escape this time, I'm sure all of you know the consequences." Everyone's eyes turned cold. He naturally needed the supreme treasure, but the most important thing now was to take Zichen's life. Everyone began to close in, and their auras approached. Zichen smiled happily, but it was also cruel. In the end, there was a hint of madness in his smile. "Everyone, let's die together." Boom. His 5 forces state aura erupted, but it was obviously not enough in front of the 6 forces state cultivators. In the next moment, the massacre spirit attacked. It flew to the stone walls on both sides like a stream of light. Puff! It completely sank into the wall and then quickly shuttled back and forth. Suddenly, the mine trembled as if it was about to collapse. "Naive, do you think you can kill us like this?" Apebert said disdainfully, "Even if this place completely collapses, it can't kill a 6 forces state cultivator. Moreover, with your strength, you want to collapse a mountain? Dream on." The slaughter spirit flew out of the stone wall and headed to the other side. It also disappeared into the stone wall. The shaking continued, and gravel rustled down from above. Apebert said impatiently, "Everyone, let's do it now." The other 6 forces state cultivators closed in again. Boom. At this moment, the killing intent on both sides completely erupted. "Haha, you've triggered the killing crystal. Kid, you're still so naive. Do you really think that killing intent can do anything to us?" Seeing this, a 6 forces state cultivator laughed disdainfully. However, Apebert's expression suddenly changed as if he had thought of something. He looked at Zichen. Zichen said, "That's right. It's that place." In the boundless killing intent, an arm suddenly flew out. In an instant, the killing intent in the place became bone-chilling as if it was going to penetrate into the marrow. Everyone's expression changed when they saw that. The moment the arm appeared, the killing intent in the place seemed to have increased by a level. "There's a foreign object in the killing crystal." "Retreat!" someone exclaimed. At this moment, a strange phenomenon appeared. The hand seemed to have become a living thing and grabbed at the 6 forces state cultivator in front of it. It grabbed the man's neck firmly. "Ah! Save me!" The 6 forces state cultivator shouted. "Kai! Kai!" However, on both sides, there was a constant wave of killing intent, accompanied by one broken object after another. There were corpses and broken weapons. It was as if someone had dug out a battlefield, and skulls were rolling around. The original mine was immediately filled with killing intent. Everyone felt as if they were in a place of 1,000-year-old ice. The killing intent was bone-chilling and terrifying. Following that, strange phenomena appeared. An exotic beast that could fly flapped its wings and captured a 6 forces state cultivator. There was also a huge creature that stomped at the 6 forces state cultivator. A weapon flew into the air and cut the 6 forces state cultivator's body open from the middle. Blood spurted out. Zichen stood there with the killing spirit floating in front of him, blocking the killing intent. At first, he could still distinguish between illusion and illusion. Some were illusions, and some were reality. However, in the end, more killing intent filled the place. The killing spirit began to tremble. Some of the killing intent penetrated its defenses and entered his body. Zichen gradually lost himself. Boom! Boom! In the mine, rumbling sounds could be heard continuously. The killing intent was like a surging river. Everyone was lost in it. Endless killing intent entered their bodies and destroyed them. The killing spirit was born to devour killing intent. However, there was too much killing intent here. It had just swallowed a mutated beast when another mutated beast flew past it and entered Zichen's body. Endless killing intent entered his body. Zichen could not hold on any longer. His body swayed and fell. The killing intent continued to enter his body, destroying his life force. As if he was attacked by true power, his body became a piece of paper again. It began to twist violently, as if it would be torn apart at any time. Just as his body was about to collapse from the intense twisting, his heart let out a thumping sound. Chapter 5090. I've been away for a few days now. I can't rush out the manuscript today. Tomorrow I'll rest for a day and save up 2 new chapters. The day after tomorrow I'll have to take the bus for a whole day, so I won't have time to write. If everything goes as planned, I'll update on the 27th. Thunder Marshal has taken 3 days off. It's currently in progress. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 5091. Thump. Zichen's heart was beating like a drum, strong and powerful. The murderous illusions in the surroundings were completely still. Zichen was lying on the ground, his body twisted and motionless. Thump. The heart beat again, strong and powerful. The still space trembled and returned to normal. However, this time, the murderous intent was no longer wreaking havoc in the surroundings. Instead, it was directed at Zichen. This time, it was not active, but passive. Zichen's heart seemed to have turned into a whirlpool, using Zichen's paper figure as a medium to devour the surrounding murderous intent. All of the murderous intent, as well as the anomalies within, were absorbed by the black hole formed by the heart. Pa. 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 Some crystals were still exploding, and the murderous intent within them was forcibly taken away. At this moment, the heart was like a terrifying predator. However, it was also because of this that those who had fainted were able to catch their breaths and were not killed by the murderous intent. Pa. Pa. Previously, it was only at this cave entrance. However, as time passed, the other caves, including the ones that contained the murderous intent, were also cracking. There were also some who were in the other caves. They were in groups of 3 and were still looking for Zichen. Seeing this, everyone's expression changed. They looked at the murderous intent that was surging out in surprise. However, the murderous intent did not wreak havoc after it appeared. It was as if it was being guided by some kind of energy and was calmly heading in a certain direction. In the pitch-black cave, there were occasional explosions. All of the murderous intent gathered in a certain direction in an orderly manner. The cave was filled with murderous intent, but it was dead silent. This strange scene caused everyone to feel apprehensive. At this moment, a powerful aura suddenly emerged from the depths of the cave. There was some kind of consciousness in this aura. It was as if a powerful existence had woken up from a deep sleep. The 6 realms did not know what was happening. The sounds disappeared, and the murderous intent stopped exploding. The pressure in the cave became even more terrifying. The murderous intent that was gathering in an orderly manner also stopped at this moment. Then, a second aura appeared. It came from a different place, and there seemed to be a consciousness in it as well. The 2 auras collided. Everyone felt their hearts sink. Their hearts became incomparably uncomfortable, as if they were being squeezed by a pair of strong hands, gradually suffocating them. Pu. Someone coughed out blood, his expression horrified. The 2 different thoughts seemed to be communicating with each other, or perhaps they were examining each other and confronting each other. This confrontation didn't last for long before one of the wills retreated. Then, the second thought faded away. The originally still killing intent continued to gather in front of him. However, no more killing crystals exploded along the way. It was as if the 2 auras had reached a consensus. These killing intents emerged from the various mines and eventually converged at Zichen's location, where they were completely absorbed by his heart. Dong. In the quiet mine, everyone was lying on the ground. He was motionless, and it was unclear whether he was dead or alive. Only his heart was beating, strong and powerful. Dong. When all the killing intent had been absorbed by the heart, a powerful energy was released from the heart. This energy converged into Zichen's body, as if it was pouring real flesh and blood into a paper person's body. Zichen's body began to expand. This expansion was just a manifestation of power, but it didn't make him look bloated. His body radiated light in all directions, giving people a feeling of power. The killing intent stopped attacking, and the Six Powers realm gradually woke up. They had comprehended the true power rules and had a strong vitality, so they wouldn't die easily. When they woke up, they saw Zichen lying there and his expanding body. Countless energy revolved around Zichen's body, releasing a powerful aura. No one knew what had happened, but looking at the situation ahead, it was obviously not something good. With so much energy surrounding one's body, even a pig could have a breakthrough. Everyone was very clear about what Zichen's breakthrough meant. Without looking at each other, a Six Powers realm immediately stepped forward. With a wave of his hand, an attack imbued with true power went straight for Zichen. Wang. As the attack approached, a real space appeared around Zichen, blocking the attack. The Six Powers realm was slightly startled and stepped forward to investigate. He touched Zichen's protection. They were separated by a ray of light, but it was as if they were in two different spaces. "What are you looking at? Hurry up and do it!" Ape Bert shouted angrily, stepped forward, and punched forward. A fiery aura surged on his fist, and the power of true intent poured out. Boom! When his fist hit the light shield, an extremely strong rebounding force shook his body backward. Kill! Ape Bert's eyes shone with a cold light. He stepped forward again and punched. Boundless true power surged like a huge wave, trying to drown Zichen. But it was useless. The protection space didn't budge. After a few punches, Ape Bert looked at the intact space and became anxious. "What are you all waiting for? I didn't see that he was about to break through." It would have been better if he hadn't said that. As soon as he said that, the Six Powers realm cultivators wanted to retreat. Seeing this, Ape Bert was amused. "Are you all a bunch of idiots? How did you reach the Six Powers realm? Once Zichen breaks through, do you think he will only kill me and let you go? Stop dreaming. We are the ones who forced him to this point. When the time comes, every single one of you will be counted as one. No one will be able to escape." Looking at the hesitant crowd, his eyes flashed with a cold light. "Now, you only have one choice. Follow me and kill him. Otherwise, everyone will die." Everyone's expressions changed. This situation was beyond their expectations. At the moment, they were in a dilemma. Damn it, don't just stand there. It's not too late to kill now. Otherwise, everything will be too late. Ape Bert was really anxious because once Zichen broke through, he would definitely be the first to kill. Therefore, he couldn't be bothered with the crowd and charged forward with all his strength. Buzz! At this moment, a stream of light suddenly appeared and pierced Ape Bert's head with a poof. Ape Bert stood there in a daze. There were still remnants of true power on his fist. His head began to bleed. This time, it was no longer a superficial wound. The blood that flowed out was accompanied by vitality. Just one blow took away half of his life. Swish! The light flashed again. It was the slaughter spirit. This time, it carried a terrifying lethality. Fart! Ape Bert did not react. A second bloody hole appeared on his head. The true power on his fist completely dissipated. The true power energy in his body also disappeared. He knelt straight on the ground. His life was about to come to an end. Swish! The light was still dancing. It was no longer a pure slaughter spirit. It already contained power. It's soul power. This is soul power. Seeing this, a Six Powers realm cultivator exclaimed. He has soul power.